Chapter 341. Even if Morbius grade did not increase, the floating island whale would probably be able to hatch from the crystal eggshell in June next year. Although the twin red pagoda's main flower had only nurtured the lifeform sacrificial fire for over 10 days, Lin Yuan could clearly feel that the lifeform sacrificial fire was constantly growing stronger. It seemed that the burning elemental shellfish's main flower's lifeform sacrificial fire was still very powerful for the twin red pagoda's main flower. It seemed that the scorching elemental shellfish's lifeform sacrificial fire, which contained a huge amount of fire elements, was still very powerful for the twin red pagoda's main flower. Lin Yuan had already given the matured lifeform sacrificial fire to Endless Summer, so he hoped that this lifeform sacrificial fire could mature quickly. Then, Lin Yuan began his goal of enhancing the phase this time. He first placed the 3 Dragon Phoenix landscape carps in a huge water tank in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Then, he placed the huge water tank with the 3 Dragon Phoenix landscape carps on his breeding table. The 3 Dragon Phoenix landscape carps were now in excellent condition. They were much better than when Lin Yuan had just promoted them to bronze/epic, be it in terms of physical appearance or spirit. Moreover, their tail fins and wing fins were a bit longer than before. The wider tail fins and wing fins made the Dragon Phoenix landscape carps more ornamental. However, Lin Yuan also discovered something even more strange about these 3 Dragon Phoenix landscape carps. Although these 3 Dragon Phoenix landscape carps looked no different from before, Lin Yuan carefully sensed them now. But now that he sensed it carefully, he realized that while the Dragon bloodline and Phoenix bloodline were constantly rising, they were also assimilating with each other. This assimilation did not refer to devouring each other, but to accepting each other and slowly fusing into a whole. Lin Yuan had decided that after enhancing these 3 Dragon Phoenix landscape carps to legend, they would no longer be stuck at bronze and would start to evolve freely. After these 3 bronze/epic Dragon Phoenix landscape carps reached bronze X/legend, it should not take long for them to reach silver I/legend. It shouldn't take long for it to advance from bronze X/legend to silver I/legend. The Dragon Phoenix landscape carps had evolved from the myriad form carp. The myriad form carp's characteristic was that each time it advanced in grade, it would evolve to a certain extent. Therefore, when the Dragon Phoenix landscape carps evolved to the silver grade, there would definitely be a certain change. After evolving from the manifestation carp to the Dragon Phoenix landscape carp, its foundation had already been decided. However, he was still very much looking forward to the changes that might occur after the evolution of these 3 Dragon Phoenix landscape carps. Then, he took the bronze/epic Dragon's Mouth Orchid. At that moment, this bronze/epic Dragon's Mouth Orchid still looked no different from weeds because it had been plucked off by Lin Yuan previously. The flower bud on the agave orchid had also withered. However, when the Dragon's Mouth Orchid reached the legendary grade, it would naturally grow another stem. There will be another Dragon's Mouth Orchid on the stem. The normal I/normal wood weaving house centipede had also been enhanced to bronze X/epic. The wood weaving house centipede was about 20 centimeters long, and its dark green body had 100 legs. It was a multi-legged insect. It had to be said that this wood weaving house centipede was somewhat similar to the source-type spine goo that Qing Rui had contracted. However, the wood weaving house centipede was a very docile insect species Fei. It only ate wood and did not have any aggressiveness. Even if you forced it into a corner, it was rare to hear that the wood weaving house centipede would attack spirit chi professionals when it was in self-defense. It could be considered the representative of "I'm ugly but very gentle" among insect species Feis. At that time, Lin Yuan had chosen to buy the bronze/flawless oath lily of the valley. It was not that there were no bronze/normal oath lilies of the valley for sale in the market at that time. It was because this bronze/flawless oath lily of the valley's flower branch looked very layered, and the layers were like the shape of a pagoda. It was also full of pure white bell-shaped oath lily of the valley. This pot was considered the most luxuriant and well-trimmed among the pots of oath lilies of the valley that Lin Yuan had seen. Therefore, Lin Yuan had bought this bronze/flawless oath lily of the valley. Since the oath lily of the valley was going to evolve into a legend Fei, it was necessary to choose a good base. Lin Yuan upgraded this bronze/flawless oath lily of the valley to bronze/epic. He looked at the 6 bronze/epic phase in front of him and took a spirit chi crystal. Then, he used force to crush the spirit chi crystal. Morbius, which was on Lin Yuan's wrist, controlled the spirit chi crystal and divided it into 5 portions. It poured into the dragon's mouth orchid, the wood-weaving house centipede, and the 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps. After the wood-weaving house centipede, the dragon's mouth orchid, and the 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps absorbed the huge amount of pure spirit chi released after the spirit chi crystal was shattered, their quality quickly improved. Finally, after the wood-weaving house centipede, the dragon's mouth orchid, and the 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps were upgraded to bronze/legend. Only then did Morbius inject the remaining spiritual power in the spirit chi crystal into the bronze/epic oath lily of the valley. As a result, this bronze/epic oath lily of the valley really lived up to expectations and evolved into a bronze/legend oath lily of the valley. Lin Yuan looked at the 6 bronze/legend phase in front of him and revealed a sunny smile. It was not that Lin Yuan was happy because of the preciousness of these 6 bronze/legend phase. It was because when these 6 bronze/epic phase evolved to legend, they actually gave Lin Yuan 2 surprises. The first surprise naturally came from the 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps. Previously, in order to let the 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps reach legend before letting them increase their grade, the dragon phoenix landscape carps had already reached legend. Therefore, Lin Yuan had been suppressing the evolution of the 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps. Therefore, the dragon phoenix landscape carps had already accumulated a lot of spiritual power in their bodies. Now that the 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps reached bronze X/legend, they actually evolved at the same time. The 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps evolving from bronze X to silver at the same time could only be considered a small surprise. But immediately after, the 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps gave Lin Yuan an even bigger surprise. Because of Morbius' true data, after the 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps evolved to silver, their names had changed. These 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps should no longer be called dragon phoenix landscape carps. 6th update seeking recommendation votes, monthly votes, Life's Passerby's 3rd update is done. Thank you for your support, Big Boss. End of this chapter. Chapter 342. At that moment, the 3 bronze X/legend dragon phoenix landscape carps were emitting a dazzling brilliance. Although this dazzling brilliance was only black and white, it was ink-like. However, the stone, grass, flower, and tree in the ink-like brilliance formed a house, a pavilion, a platform, and a pavilion. As for the house, the pavilion, the platform, and the pavilion, they formed a city. The city, the mountains, and the rivers formed a house, a pavilion, a platform, and a pavilion. The myriad of cities, mountains, and rivers formed a constantly changing ink-like world. Just as the rivers and mountains were dyed in ink, the ink-like world rose to the apex. The 3 bronze X/legend dragon phoenix landscape carps, which were evolving towards silver, emitted a dazzling brilliance that formed an ink world. It changed in an instant. The originally black and white world seemed to be injected with 8 kinds of bright and beautiful colors. These 8 kinds of bright and beautiful colors seemed to cater to the most pure colors in nature. Every color seemed to be able to reach the origin of all things. Yellow, red, blue, green, purple, orange, and black. The 8 colors of the universe were immeasurable, and the 8 colors of the formless gave birth to longevity. The 8 colors were immediately bright and beautiful, and the myriad world seemed to have evolved tens of thousands of years of vitality in an instant. Although Lin Yuan could only see the rivers and mountains flowing under the 8 colors, he still couldn't see the dragon phoenix landscape carps evolving. However, when Lin Yuan saw the dragon phoenix landscape carps evolve name, a different kind of shock arose in his heart. With the dragon and phoenix bloodlines, solidify the eternal life of mountains and rivers. The dragon phoenix landscape carps had already changed their name to Mountain River Eternal Life Carps. After a long time, the Bronze X/Legend Dragon Phoenix Landscape Carps finally completed their evolution to Silver I/Legend Mountain River Eternal Life Carps. At that moment, the halo of the 8 bright and beautiful rivers and mountains had completely dissipated. Lin Yuan finally saw what the Silver I/Legend Mountain River Eternal Life Carps looked like. The Mountain River Eternal Life Carps were actually not much different from the previous Dragon Phoenix Landscape Carps. However, the Mountain River Eternal Life Carps and the Dragon Phoenix Landscape Carps gave Lin Yuan a completely different feeling. If the Dragon Phoenix Landscape Carps gave Lin Yuan the feeling that they were praising the beauty of mountains and rivers, in that case, the Mountain River Eternal Life Carp gave him the feeling that it was guarding the splendid land's fortune. Lin Yuan took a closer look at the Mountain River Eternal Life Carp, which had 8 bright colors instead of the ink color, and his pupils constricted. The Mountain River Eternal Life Carp's myriad miles of rivers and mountains painting had become even more complicated. As the saying goes, the 4 directions welcome the 8 colors, and the 8 colors give birth to 6 blessings. Aside from the fact that the myriad phenomena on the Mountain and River Eternal Life Carp's back were moving faster, there were also many more fortune and longevity runes. The Happy Bat longevity mark appeared on the fish's forehead, signifying a flood of good fortune. The fish's eyes gave birth to the longevity mark, implying that it was bright and clear. The fins had the pine deer longevity pattern, implying that the pine deer and deer lived together in spring. The belly of the fish was marked with a golden pomegranate, which meant that the pomegranate would blossom into 100 seeds. The fish scales bore the mark of an orchid, implying longevity of an orchid. Jiang Wu's longevity mark was carved on the fish's tail, implying boundless longevity. The everlasting rivers and mountains rune fell on the back of the fish, revealing its stature. Lin Yuan carefully distinguished and found that there were a total of 6 types of fortune and longevity words, which just happened to imply good fortune. The 6 types of fortune and longevity runes on the Mountain River Eternal Life Carp's back and the 8 colors of mountains and rivers flowed like a kind of immeasurable blessing. Yan Shan He's lifespan, immeasurable blessings. The Mountain River Eternal Life Carp might seem abnormally crowded in this narrow water tank. One simply couldn't see the Mountain River Eternal Life Carp's excellent posture. However, even in this narrow water tank, just the ripples created by the Mountain River Eternal Life Carp's swaying tail and fin contrasted with the magnificent colors on its body, as though it could bloom thousands of fragrant flowers. Just one flower would make one reminisce for a long time. Lin Yuan looked at the 3 Mountain River Eternal Life Carps and thought to himself. If the previous 3 Dragon Phoenix Landscape Carps could be considered superior auspicious signs, then these 3 Mountain River Eternal Life Carps could be considered supreme grade auspicious signs at the very least. It could even be said that they had already surpassed the auspicious signs category. Lin Yuan couldn't bear to see these 3 Mountain River Eternal Life Carps squeezed in this water tank, so he simply stored them in the diamond face storage box. When it was time to go out, he would put them back into the red sandalwood longevity fish tank made of completely jade-textured red sandalwood. This time, he had enhanced these 6 phase from bronze/epic to bronze/legend and brought a total of 2 surprises to Lin Yuan. However, compared to the 3 Dragon Phoenix Landscape Carps evolution from bronze to silver to Mountain River Eternal Life Carps, the remaining small surprise seemed insignificant. However, this small surprise would probably make Hu Quan so happy that he wouldn't sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. As a tool, Hu Quan's happiness wouldn't diminish even if he worked for another 10 hours every day to celebrate for a year. As a tool, Hu Quan's happiness wouldn't diminish even if he worked for another 10 hours every day to celebrate for a year. This was because the wood-weaving house centipede that Hu Quan had given to him had mutated when it had been enhanced to Bronze X/Legend. Of course, this mutation couldn't be called evolution. This mutation referred to the wood-weaving house centipede's wood-weaving silk sac at its tail splitting into 2. The wood-weaving house centipede's silk sac splitting was similar to Lin Yuan's succulent jasmine lily's colony growth. The colony growth mutation caused the jasmine lily to change from a single flower head to a multiple flower head. Although the total healing energy in the jasmine lily's body did not change, it could transform single target healing into group healing. It could also automatically switch between single-target healing and group healing according to Lin Yuan's will. The wood-weaving house centipede's silk sac splitting was the same. The wood-weaving house centipede could eat wood and turn it into a liquid state in its body. Finally, the silk sac at the wood-weaving house centipede's tail would eject tough threads made of wood. This was because the wood-weaving house centipede's speed of decomposing wood did not change. Therefore, even if the wood-weaving house centipede's silk sac split into two, the total amount of wood threads that could be ejected would still remain the same. However, the wood-weaving house centipede's silk sac splitting into two was not as simple as saving time and efficiency for a spirit craftsman. The double threads ejected from the two silk sacs could allow a spirit craftsman to use double the number of threads to create. Not only could it save more effort for the spirit craftsman, but it could also increase the possibility of products made from wood. This could be used for a full month. Moreover, as long as the wood-weaving house centipede's grade was high enough, the efficiency of decomposing wood would be faster. In fact, to a certain extent, the wood-weaving house centipede's silk sac splitting mutation could indeed allow a spirit craftsman's ability to produce wood to achieve double the effect. Hu Quan, who was already a top-notch tool, had become even more valiant. As long as Hu Quan fused the Bronze X/Legend wood-weaving house centipede with the willpower rune and the fantasy breed jade saber mantis from before, he would have two fantasy breed phase. This way, Hu Quan would have two fantasy breed phase, and his spirit craftsman standard had long reached the standard of a class 5 spirit craftsman. As long as he went to the Spirit Craftsman Association for certification, Hu Quan would be a true class 5 spirit craftsman. The Mountain and River Eternal Life Carp wrote several times and finally chose this. I hope everyone likes it. Asking for tickets today's first time is even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 343. As for the Bronze/Epic Oath Lily of the Valley, its appearance did not change much after evolving to Bronze/Legend. However, the pagoda-shaped Oath Lily of the Valley's pure white bell-shaped flowers bloomed. The moment it was promoted to Legend, a layer of lustrous white flowing light appeared. It was as if every single pure white bell-shaped flower had lit up in an instant. Coupled with the pagoda-shaped plant's shape, it looked like a tree of bell-shaped nephrite. It gave off a feeling of riches and honor. The flowing light in the pure white bell-shaped flower was the reason why the Oath Lily of the Valley could carry oaths. Or it could be said that the rippling light was actually a kind of curse in essence. The Legend Oath Lily of the Valley's flower was a container to store oaths and also a curse to seal the willpower rune of the betrayer. Lin Yuan did not pay much attention to this Bronze/Legend Oath Lily of the Valley and kept it in the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box. This Bronze/Legend Oath Lily of the Valley was not something Lin Yuan used often, so there was no need to put it in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. The resources in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone were already tight, and putting it in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone would undoubtedly take up space. He just had to buy an area on Star Web to build his faction. He could place this Bronze/Legend Oath Lily of the Valley in his faction's room. There was only one Bronze/Epic Fae left that Lin Yuan had yet to check. The last Fae, which was the Dragon's Mouth Orchid that had been promoted from Bronze/Epic to Legend, had truly broadened Lin Yuan's horizons. Lin Yuan did not know what changes would occur when the Dragon's Mouth Orchid evolved from Epic to Legend. For example, when the Dragon's Mouth Orchid bloomed, the Dragon's Mouth Orchid would be light blue when it was at the perfect rank, but when it reached the Epic rank, it would be dark blue. However, Lin Yuan did not expect the Dragon's Mouth Orchid to actually turn completely black when it reached Legend. A huge black Dragon's Mouth Orchid flower was much bigger than Lin Yuan's palm. The dark blue Dragon's Mouth Orchid flower's stamen had a layer of shiny scale-like wood structure. Now, this black Bronze/Legend Dragon's Mouth Orchid flower's stamen looked like bright diamonds. This was a sign of wood crystallization. As early as when the Dragon's Mouth Orchid had been promoted to Legend, Lin Yuan had smelled its scent. However, the smell emitted by the legendary Dragon God Orchid was already somewhat fragrant and stinky. The smell was so fragrant that it smelled bad, and there was a taste that was as stimulating as liquor. This smell was the unique smell of dragon species phase. Lin Yuan finally broke off the huge black legend dragon's mouth orchid from the dragon's mouth orchid stem. It had to be said that this ink black legendary quality agave orchid was quite sturdy. Previously, using a spirit chi crystal to enhance these 6 bronze/epic phase to legend was just a small matter. Now, he had to truly enhance his own fey. Lin Yuan wanted to enhance the bronze X/legend spirit gather goldfish, Blackie, that Morbius had spirit locked. Lin Yuan walked to the side of the spirit pool and found that Blackie was leisurely eating the butterfly shell flowers at the bottom of the pool. After Blackie reached bronze, the butterfly shell flowers that Lin Yuan fed it had also increased by a grade. The butterfly shell flowers that Lin Yuan had fed Blackie were just low-grade butterfly shells that lived in the shallow sea and were carved from them. The butterfly shell flowers that Lin Yuan fed Blackie were high-grade butterfly shells that were produced in the deep sea and were carved from a small number of high-grade ones. Although it could not be said that high-grade butterfly shells were priceless in the market, they were still very expensive. Under normal circumstances, very few people would be willing to use high-grade deep-sea butterfly shells to let fays eat casually. After all, although the flower could stimulate the dragon species bloodline in the fae, the effect of stimulating the bloodline was mainly nurturing and auxiliary. However, the effect of activating the bloodline was mainly based on nurturing, and there wouldn't be any effect in the short term. This was also why Lin Yuan had been feeding Blackie so many butterfly shell flowers. However, when Blackie had stimulated its dragon species bloodline, it had used 3 drops of dragon species phase essence blood for the first time. The second time, he planned to use the legend dragon's mouth orchid flowers. However, he did not feel that it was a waste for Blackie to eat the butterfly shell flower carved from the deep-sea butterfly shells. Because of the accumulation of the past few months, Lin Yuan could sense that the trace of dragon species bloodline hidden in the spirit gather goldfish's bodies was becoming more and more active after eating the butterfly shell flowers carved from the expensive deep-sea butterfly shells. However, if one stared at the spirit gather goldfish Blackie every day, they wouldn't be able to see it. However, if he were to look at it once every 1 or 2 months, he would still be able to see that faint dragon species phase pressure constantly accumulating in Blackie's body. It was as if it was waiting for a complete transformation. Lin Yuan looked at the huge black legend dragon's mouth orchid flower in his hand with great anticipation. Lin Yuan was not prepared to let Blackie immediately undergo a drastic transformation into a dragon species fae after eating this dragon's mouth orchid flower. However, this legend dragon's mouth orchid flower would definitely allow Blackie to comprehensively cleanse its bloodline and greatly strengthen its trace of dragon species fae bloodline. It might even completely suppress the fish's comprehended bloodline. It would allow the dragon species fae's bloodline to occupy the dominant position in Blackie's body. This was because Lin Yuan did not know the effect of the legend dragon's mouth orchid flower. In fact, Lin Yuan still placed the treasure of Blackie's evolution into a dragon species fae on the moment it evolved into a fantasy breed fae. Blackie sensed Lin Yuan's arrival and immediately swam to the side of the spirit pool. It used its black velvet peony-like tail to whip the spirit pool's surface, creating splashes as it greeted Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan watched as Blackie used its tail to whip the water. He felt that this spirit gather goldfish and the 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps greeted each other in the same way. Lin Yuan thought that if he were to lie at the side of the pool, he might get wet from the splashes from Blackie's whipping. At that moment, Lin Yuan fished out the 5 fortune ranches, which had evolved to bronze, from the spirit pool. He also placed the female 5 fortune ranches, which Blackie had a good time with, in the water tank where the 3 mountain river eternal life carps were stored. This was the moment when Blackie would once again stimulate its dragon species bloodline. Today's second update, end of this chapter. Chapter 344. Lin Yuan had now completely emptied the spirit pool. At this moment, only Blackie, the spirit gather goldfish, was swimming freely in the spirit pool. When Lin Yuan saw Blackie's joyful expression, he felt a slight headache. Although Blackie, the spirit gather goldfish, was considered an animal, its IQ was not much lower than that of the jasmine lily. Blackie might look like it understood humans, but it had a silly and cheerful personality. In fact, he was just a silly and cheerful person who seemed to understand everything. In fact, he only knew how to spit bubbles in the spirit pool when he had nothing to do. This was like a student who didn't know anything, but when the teacher was lecturing, he would nod, ponder, and interact with the teacher with an expression of sudden enlightenment. In fact, in his mind, he was thinking about something as simple as eating potato chips and drinking cola on a big bed. This made Lin Yuan overestimate Blackie's intelligence. Previously, Lin Yuan had always thought that there was something between Blackie and the female 5-fortune Ranchu. But then, he suddenly recalled that his spirit-gather goldfish, Blackie, was also a female fish. Later, Lin Yuan realized that Blackie did not have any other feelings for the female 5-fortune Ranchu. However, the size of the female 5-fortune Ranchu was about the same as the spirit-gather goldfish, Blackie. The spirit-gather goldfish, Blackie, treated the female 5-fortune Ranchu as its playmate. At that moment, Lin Yuan issued an order to Blackie. Then, he threw the Black Legend Dragon's mouth orchid flower into the spirit pool. This was the moment when Blackie stimulated its dragon species bloodline transformation for the second time. Fish fays were not smart. Even high-grade fish fays were not very smart as long as they did not become myth breeds. This was also why there was a saying that fish only had 7 seconds of memory. However, if Blackie could evolve into a dragon species fay, its intelligence would increase by a level. When it became a dragon species fay, its intelligence would increase by a level. Blackie followed Lin Yuan's order and swam toward the legend dragon's mouth orchid flower. Just as Blackie swallowed the legend dragon's mouth orchid flower, Lin Yuan could feel the dragon species pressure in Blackie's body. Lin Yuan could feel Blackie's dragon species pressure, which had been accumulating power and waiting to be unleashed, erupting in an instant. Although Xiao He was already a spirit-gather goldfish, it still had the appearance of a spirit-siphon goldfish. However, the moment the dragon's might erupted, the spirit-gather goldfish, Blackie, immediately sank to the bottom of the spirit pool under the intense pain. Then, the spirit-gather goldfish, Blackie, began to churn at the bottom of the spirit pool. He kept slamming his body against the walls of the spirit pool. The spirit-gather goldfish, Blackie, hit the wall of the spiritual pool with great force. The spirit-gather goldfish Blackie's black scales were considered hard. It didn't suffer much damage when it hit the wall of the spirit pool for the first few times. However, under the unbearable pain, the spirit-gather goldfish slammed into the spirit pool's wall again and again. Slowly, the black scales on Blackie's body loosened. Even the fins and tail of the fish had been battered by the crazy collisions. Many parts of the spirit-gather goldfish, Xiao He's fins and tail were already broken. Through this opening, Lin Yuan could even see the golden metal disc filled with energy ores and the deep-sea butterfly shell flowers at the bottom of the spirit pool. Although Blackie didn't have high intelligence, a contractor and Faye could sense each other's feelings and thoughts. Just like now, Lin Yuan could completely feel the pain that came from the depths of Blackie's soul. It was a process where all the cells in the body were destroyed and reborn under the stimulation of the bloodline. Lin Yuan naturally felt heartache for Blackie's pain. However, Lin Yuan also knew that it was useless for him to feel heartache. It couldn't reduce a trace of the pain that Blackie had to endure. The edge of a treasured sword was sharpened, and the fragrance of plum blossoms was gone. If a person wanted to learn knowledge and become the best person, they would need to work hard for thousands of days and nights. Moreover, Blackie's racial bloodline had undergone a qualitative transformation. The scarlet blood in Blackie's body flowed into the spirit pool from the broken scales. It was immediately broken down into spirit chi by the spirit pool and injected into the spirit lock spatial zone. Had it not been for Blackie's bulging eyes that were not damaged, Lin Yuan would never have recognized that this bloody fish fey in the spirit pool was actually Blackie. No matter what, Lin Yuan would never have recognized that this bloody fish fey in the spirit pool was actually Blackie. The spirit-gather goldfish, Blackie, no longer had any scales on its body. It was using its softest flesh to hit the walls of the spirit pool. The mangled spirit-gather goldfish, Blackie, was still crazily hitting the spirit pool's wall to vent the intense pain that was surging all over its body. Each hit would definitely bring up a handful of captivating red blood. Lin Yuan quietly accompanied Blackie by the spirit pool and walked the most difficult path of a fish's life. For Blackie, the legendary dragon's mouth orchid would have been a great blessing if it had not been discovered by chance in the depths of the endless forest. Since it was a blessing, it had to endure no matter how hard it was. It was said that a golden unicorn was not a fish in a pond and would transform into a dragon when encountering a storm. At this moment, the legend dragon's mouth orchid was Blackie's storm. As Blackie's contractor, Lin Yuan had always been standing by the spirit pool to accompany Blackie. He silently observed the second transformation of the spirit siphon goldfish's dragon species bloodline after its first awakening into a spirit gather goldfish. Lin Yuan clenched his fist tightly. Watching his contracted phase growth and transformation was so painful, he felt heartache and blissful at the same time. Once this path was crossed, Blackie wouldn't have such huge bumps in the future. Blackie might still be a bloody mess, but the captivating red blood that flowed out slowly had a hint of gold. However, Blackie's bulb-like eyes seemed to have left Lin Yuan and were constantly squeezing toward the top of Blackie's head. The spot where Blackie's eyes used to be had a hint of gold. Furthermore, this gold color was constantly deepening. When the place where the eyes used to be had turned completely dark gold, the golden light that rose up from where the eyes used to be was completely dark gold. Blackie immediately quieted down and sank to the bottom of the spirit pool. It lay at the bottom of the spirit pool and didn't seem to have any strength at all. Lin Yuan observed carefully and realized that a thin layer of tough skin had already grown on the surface of Blackie's body. Then, the two big eyes on the top of Little Black's head, which had been separated from the spirit gather goldfish, finally formed two small horns that looked dark gold with black color. Third update button is sick. The latest update may be a little slow, but I guarantee 3 updates every day. End of this chapter. If Blackie, the spirit gather goldfish, activated its bloodline, it would be called a spirit-drawing dragonfish under true data. In that case, Blackie's body was still dominated by the fish phase bloodline. However, Blackie's name under true data was now spirit-drawing ichthyosaur. This meant that Blackie's bloodline was now dominated by a dragon species phase bloodline. It could even be said that there was not much of the fish phase bloodline left in its body. Lin Yuan was pleasantly surprised by such a discovery. This meant that when Blackie became a fantasy breed, it would evolve from a fish species Fae to a dragon species Fae. It was already a matter of time before it became a fantasy breed. At that time, Blackie would no longer be an ichthyosaur but a true flood dragon. Now, if he wanted Blackie to become a fantasy breed, what he lacked was a suitable willpower rune. However, Lin Yuan still did not feel like he could comprehend Blackie's willpower rune. Previously, when Endless Summer had used the Enlightenment Law rune to swear to become his protector, Lin Yuan had vaguely felt a trace of inexplicable comprehension in his mind. However, that comprehension was simply too faint, so Lin Yuan could not figure out what it was. Even if that comprehension was completely comprehended and formed into a willpower rune. Lin Yuan felt that this kind of comprehended willpower rune should not be suitable for Blackie. Therefore, he still had no clue how Blackie could become a fantasy breed. However, after Blackie stimulated the trace of dragon species bloodline hidden in its body and evolved into a spirit-drawing ichthyosaur, Lin Yuan found that Blackie's exclusive skill, Spirit Chi Imprint, was almost twice as fast as usual. After Blackie's exclusive skill, Spirit Chi Imprint, evolved into a spirit-drawing ichthyosaur, Lin Yuan found that Blackie's exclusive skill, Spirit Chi Imprint, was almost twice as fast as usual. After Blackie's spirit gather goldfish evolved into a spirit-drawing ichthyosaur, its exclusive skill, Spirit Chi Imprint, had undergone obvious changes. Fey name, spirit-drawing ichthyosaur. Fey species, ichthyosaur/flood dragon. Fey grade, bronze, 10/10. Fey type, water. Fey quality, legend abilities. Frowny face spirit injection, restore a certain amount of spiritual power in one go and slowly recover the lost spiritual power. Exclusive skill Frowny face Spirit Chi Imprint, the spirit qi released by the body is not released into the environment but stored in the spirit qi imprint. It can also guide a small amount of spirit qi released by other dragon species phase that do not exceed the body's grade and inject it into the spirit qi imprint. The spirit qi imprint will be branded on the contractor, and the contractor can actively release the spirit qi stored in the spirit qi imprint. Upon seeing this change, Lin Yuan couldn't help but size up the spirit pool and the spirit lock spatial zone. From this change, Lin Yuan saw a very feasible direction. It had to be said that when Lin Yuan had first nurtured the elite spirit siphon goldfish in the spirit pool, those spirit siphon goldfish had been nurtured in a very short period of time, and they had indeed earned a lot of savings for Lin Yuan's initial stage. However, that was when Lin Yuan was just starting out. Now, these elite spirit siphon goldfish that were nurtured in the spirit lock spatial zone could bring Lin Yuan a negligible income. In fact, when comparing the elite spirit siphon goldfish and the silver usnias were in higher demand. After all, the spirit siphon goldfish were just items that assisted in cultivation, while the usnias produced were necessities in life. Therefore, Lin Yuan had the intention of not using the spirit pool to nurture the elite spirit siphon goldfish and selling them in his purchase with no loss store. Lin Yuan had been providing elite spirit siphon goldfish to Zhou Jiesen's store. However, if Lin Yuan was willing to exchange the elite spirit siphon goldfish for silver usnias, Zhou Jiesen would probably jump for joy. Now that the spirit siphon ichthyosaur's exclusive skill, the spirit qi imprint, Lin Yuan felt that he could make good use of the spirit pool. Chapter 1, End of this chapter. Chapter 346. The spirit drawing ichthyosaur could guide the spirit qi released by dragon species phase within a certain range into the spirit qi imprint. Even if it was only a trace, Lin Yuan had to strive for it. This was because every trace of spirit qi in the spirit qi imprint was Lin Yuan's absolute trump card. It could be said that there were almost no dragon species phase that could release spirit qi. Even if there were some precious dragon species phase that could release spirit qi, their size would not be small. Therefore, the most suitable phase for Lin Yuan were the ice spirit siphon goldfish with a trace of dragon species bloodline. Lin Yuan could nurture these ice spirit siphon goldfish with a trace of dragon species bloodline, just like how he had nurtured Blackie to evolve from a spirit siphon goldfish to a spirit gather goldfish. At that time, these ice spirit siphon goldfish would stimulate the trace of dragon species bloodline in their bodies. The spirit drawing ichthyosaur could use its exclusive skill to increase the spirit qi in the spirit qi imprint faster. Lin Yuan carefully sensed the range of the spirit qi released by the spirit drawing ichthyosaur's exclusive skill to guide other dragon species phase. He found that the range was actually very small, not even half the size of the spirit pool. However, Lin Yuan did not mind. As Blackie evolved into a fantasy breed, the range would get bigger and bigger. After Morbius grade increased, the spirit pool's area would also get bigger, just enough to satisfy Blackie's constantly expanding range. There were many colors of the ice spirit siphon goldfish, and the most common was red. However, Lin Yuan planned to choose black for all the ice spirit siphon goldfish that he would carefully nurture and activate their dragon species bloodline in the future. This way, the spirit pool and the spirit lock spatial zone would have a hint of the ink dragon pool. After Lin Yuan and Blackie got close for a while, Lin Yuan let Blackie nourish itself in the spirit pool. Although Blackie's bloodline had undergone a qualitative transformation, Lin Yuan and Blackie were close for a while. Lin Yuan let Blackie nourish itself in the spirit pool. Blackie's current mental state was not good. The pain it had just experienced would not disappear because of the transformation of its bloodline. Therefore, Blackie still needed some time to nourish itself before it could recover to its best state. Blackie's dragon species Fey bloodline was already in the dominant position, and it was not as powerful as Blackie. Therefore, when he nurtured Blackie in the future, he could feed it butterfly shell flowers carved from deep-sea butterfly shells to nourish its bloodline. He could also feed Blackie some dragon species Fey essence blood from time to time. He had not dared to feed little black dragon species essence blood because he was afraid that its dragon species bloodline would be too thin. He had rashly used a dragon species phase essence blood to strengthen Blackie. It was very likely that the trace of dragon species Fey bloodline in Blackie's body would not be able to suppress the energy in the essence blood. However, the dragon species Fey bloodline concentration in Blackie's body was already strong enough. Dragon species Fey's bloodlines were divided into ancient dragons and flood dragons. As for the ancient dragon species and the flood dragon species, no matter which bloodline evolved to a higher level, they could be called the main dragon species. Among the ancient dragon species and flood dragon species phase, flood dragon species phase were the rarest. Therefore, it was not easy for Lin Yuan to feed Blackie the flood dragon species phase essence blood that it could consume. Blackie might have reached legend quality, but it was still a bronze Fey after all. If there was a silver flood dragon species phase essence blood to feed Blackie, it would be the most suitable. However, most flood dragon species phase grades were relatively high. The spirit-drawing ichthyosaur, Blackie, was a complete accident. If not for the legend dragon's mouth orchid, the flood dragon species bloodline in Blackie's body would not be able to reach its current level. However, silver flood dragon species phase essence blood was also very rare. Where was Lin Yuan going to look for it? He could not possibly wait for the bronze/legend dragon's mouth orchid to bloom another dragon's mouth orchid 4 months later. He would nurture another silver flood dragon species Fey and use its essence blood to feed Blackie. Putting aside whether Lin Yuan could use the dragon's mouth orchid to nurture another silver flood dragon species Fey. Even if he could, Lin Yuan would not do so. Therefore, this silver flood dragon species phase essence blood became the 100 mid-grade strange flames that Lin Yuan had exchanged for with the 10 flower brocade pearls. It was his next target for leaks. Lin Yuan was about to store the wood-weaving house centipede into the diamond phase storage box and leave the spirit lock spatial zone when he discovered something. He did not know when this bronze/legend wood-weaving house centipede had fought with the crane species Fey that had yet to fully develop its genetic model. It was the little gray fellow that was confronting it. Lin Yuan understood what was going on at a glance. He had been accompanying Blackie to purify its bloodline and had not noticed that the wood-weaving house centipede had designs on the cinnabar sweet osmanthus. The phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree was obviously more delicious than the cinnabar sweet osmanthus for the wood-weaving house centipede. However, the wood-weaving house centipede did not dare to have designs on the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. Chimey, which was lying in the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's nest, was purifying its bloodline and improving its quality. Just the strange flames sealed in the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's branches could make the bronze X/legend wood-weaving house centipede feel a fatal danger. At that moment, among the 130 golden leaves sealed with mid-grade strange flames at the top of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's treetop, the golden flames in more than 30 golden leaves had been absorbed by the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree and Chimey. However, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree had released any mid-grade strange flames. They could burn the bronze X/legend wood-weaving house centipede to ashes. Therefore, the wood-weaving house centipede had set its sights on the cinnabar sweet osmanthus. However, the little gray fellow had long regarded the cinnabar sweet osmanthus as its nest. A little guy who had never felt warmth since he was born would risk his life to protect all the warmth he could feel. Therefore, the little gray fellow confronted the bronze X/legend wood-weaving house centipede. The wood-weaving house centipede was docile by nature, and the gold wind speed rapid antelope had been guarding it. Therefore, the wood-weaving house centipede had not made any moves to attack. Although this little gray fellow looked big, it was only a normal Fey that had yet to fully develop its genetic model. Lin Yuan looked at this little fellow's fierce appearance and went forward to put the wood-weaving house centipede into the Fey storage box. When the little gray fellow saw that Lin Yuan had helped it chase away the bad guy, it trotted toward him. When the little gray fellow saw that Lin Yuan had helped it chase away the bad guy, it trotted toward him. It used its small head and neck to rub against Lin Yuan's palm. Lin Yuan rubbed the little gray fellow's head and said, "Be good, don't be afraid. Gray is the bravest." When he had left the spirit lock spatial zone last night, Lin Yuan had given this little fellow a name. When he had left the spirit lock spatial zone last night, Lin Yuan had given this little fellow a name. When Lin Yuan first saw the little fellow, its entire body was covered in dust. Lin Yuan thought that he might as well call it Gray. Second chapter, end of this chapter. Chapter 347. Gray listened to Lin Yuan's words as if it understood something. Although it did not know what Lin Yuan was talking about, this gray little fellow was extremely dependent on Lin Yuan, who had saved it. Even if Gray had not signed a contract with Lin Yuan yet, it could still clearly feel Lin Yuan's kindness and love. Lin Yuan placed Gray on the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's branch and played with it for a while. Then, he said, "Gray, I'll come to see you again later. I'll bring you some tang fish to eat. Gray, I'll come to see you later. I'll bring you some tang fish to eat." He was also used to communicating with fays the same way he treated his human friends. Lin Yuan was also used to communicating with fays the same way he treated his human friends. It was also because of Lin Yuan's respectful way of communicating with fays. In the 2 years since he had started raising Genius. Even if Genius's foundation was not good, after 2 years, Genius would be more intelligent than ordinary 100 questions beasts. Lin Yuan was not sure what species this gray little fellow was, but it was a crane species fay after all. For crane species fays, their favorite food was tang fish. This little fellow was now recovering its genetic model and growing its body. In addition to the huge and pure spiritual power in the spirit lock spatial zone, nutrition was also indispensable. After leaving the spirit lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan immediately went to change a set of clothes. Previously, the spirit-drawing dragonfish had jumped into Lin Yuan's arms and wet his clothes. Although his clothes were no longer so wet due to Lin Yuan's body temperature. It was really uncomfortable to wear wet clothes. After leaving the room, Lin Yuan saw a small basket at the door with Wen Yu's carefully written faction plan and suggestions. He picked up the plan and suggestions written by Wen Yu and read them carefully. Wen Yu, Lu Jia, and Lin Yuan had lived together in Lin Yuan's mansion. Now, there were Hu Quan, the mother of Bloodbath, and Endless Summer. The people living in Lin Yuan's mansion included young men, young women, middle-aged men, plants, and insects. In a big family, respecting each other's privacy was the minimum respect and care. Therefore, when entering each other's rooms, they would knock on the door. If no one answered after knocking, they would put the prepared things in the basket at the door. The baskets at the door were carved by Hu Quan from all kinds of completely jade-textured wood, and the remaining large pieces were pieced together skillfully. Each basket made of various jade-textured wood fragments was like an exquisite work of art. Lin Yuan stood at the door and looked at Wen Yusin's development and plan for the faction. Just like that, he watched for an entire hour. The more Lin Yuan watched, the more he realized that she had abandoned her previous sense of superiority when analyzing the major factions. Therefore, he had a very clear analysis of the major forces. Back then, when they came out of the private auction of the King-class powerhouse team, Lin Fan had been stunned for a while. From Gao Feng's words, Wen Yu knew that Gao Feng came from the Gao family in Wind Mist City. From then on, he knew that she knew all the major factions very well. Now, it seemed that Wen Yu's understanding of the major forces could no longer be described as understanding. According to the 7 to 8 thick pages of analysis on the various forces, Wang Chang's expression changed drastically. For each force, Wen Yu clearly summarized the advantages and disadvantages of each force in one sentence. One could say that Wen Yu was a walking encyclopedia of the various major powers. Wen Yu's expertise happened to be Lin Yuan's weakness. It could be said that Wen Yu's ability just made up for Lin Yuan's shortcomings. After Lin Yuan finished reading Wen Yu's private faction development and plan, he walked up the golden bell-wood spiral staircase and arrived at Wen Yu's door. Soon, Wen Yu pushed open the door and walked out. She saw that it was Lin Yuan and that he was holding the private faction development and suggestions that she had written for the second time. When he saw that it was Lin Yuan and that he was holding the proposal for the development of his faction, which he had written for the second time. "Young master, what do you think of what I wrote this time?" Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan revealed a sunny smile on his face and replied, "Young master, what do you think of what I wrote this time?" Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan revealed a sunny smile on his face and replied, "It's great this time. Your understanding of other factions happens to be in the direction that I'm not good at." Upon hearing that, Wen Yu's face also bloomed with a heartfelt smile. At that moment, Wen Yu suddenly felt that she could finally help Lin Yuan. Hu Quan had already taken a nap and had his liver replenished. After mending his liver, Hu Quan had already started making all kinds of exquisite things downstairs. Lin Yuan built his faction on Star Web, although he did not plan to do so in the outside world. However, he still had to design the faction's internal space. However, he was not in a hurry to design the faction's internal space. He thought about giving the Bronze X/Legend Wood Weaving House Centipede to Hu Quan in a few days. After letting Hu Quan contract this Bronze X/Legend Wood Weaving House Centipede and promote it to a fantasy breed, the Wood Weaving House Centipede became a fantasy breed. It would undoubtedly be much more convenient for Hu Quan to construct the internal space of his private organization. Lin Yuan had previously agreed to give Hu Quan the Bronze/Legend Wood Weaving House Centipede within 10 days. He had completed the enhancement of the Bronze/Legend Wood Weaving House Centipede in just a few hours. However, he was not in a hurry to give it to Hu Quan. Lin Yuan planned to give the 3 Silver/Legend Mountain River Eternal Life Carps to Hu Quan after giving them to the Wood Weaving House Centipede. Then, he placed the 3 Mountain River Eternal Life Carps into the Red Sandalwood Longevity Fish Tank. The Red Sandalwood Longevity Fish Tank was paired with all kinds of phase as an auspicious scene, and one had to be able to distinguish the priority. In the past, the Bronze/Epic Dragon Phoenix Landscape Carps were the masters. Now, the masters were replaced by the Silver/Legend Mountain River Eternal Life Carps. However, the 99 Lustrous Winged Butterflies, 99 Spirit-Containing Hibiscuses, and 99 5 Fortune Ranches were still only at Bronze I/Flawless. Therefore, these secondary spiritual physicists would also receive a boost in strength. As an auspicious scene, only complementing each other could reflect the harmonious aura within. Otherwise, this auspicious scene would seem a little top-heavy. The Mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer also returned when the sky was getting dark. The Mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer each carried big and small bags. Obviously, they had just returned from the mall. However, Endless Summer's bags were mostly filled with spirit accessories and clothing. The Mother of Bloodbath's bags were filled with all kinds of snacks and pastries. During dinner, everyone was more happy. On the contrary, the Mother of Bloodbath, which had brought back all kinds of delicacies and snacks, looked a little depressed. During the meal, the Mother of Bloodbath had already said no less than 10 times that Lu Jie's cooking was still the best. Lin Yuan could not help but think. If he wanted to get a spider's approval, he had to first get the approval of the spider's stomach. Third update, end of this chapter. Chapter 348. In 2 days, Lu Jie would be able to return to the manor from the Radiance Sacred Hall. He wondered what Lu Jie's position in the Radiance 100 sequence would be after he returned to the Radiance 100 for 3 years. The Source-type cocoon of evolution in Lin Yuan's hand would be given to Lu Jie when he returned. To celebrate Lu Jie's return to the Radiance 100 sequence. After dinner, Lin Yuan thought that since he had nothing to do, he might as well go to Star Web and buy the private faction's territory. During the day, Endless Summer and the Mother of Bloodbath had already applied for Star Web cards and could log on to Star Web at any time. Lin Yuan and Endless Summer agreed to meet at the Star Web Center. Lin Yuan first logged into his purchase with No Loss store. Lin Yuan found that Listen had returned to his former self in the Purchase with No Loss store's fan club. Listen, who hadn't been chatting in the group for nearly a month, seemed to have become the focus of the crowd in just a few hours. No matter what the topic was, the Eye of the Typhoon in the group was always listening attentively. Even the 8 Class 3 Creation Masters and 2 Class 4 Creation Masters, who had joined the group later, could occasionally strike up a conversation with Listen. Lin Yuan couldn't help but sigh at Listen's magical diplomatic talent. If different people said the same thing, some people would feel that it was righteous, while others would unconsciously make people think the wrong way. If Listen's ability was used in the right place, it would be extremely terrifying. Apart from measuring the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's value, Lin Yuan had asked Listen to come to the royal capital for a face-to-face talk. Lin Yuan listened with appreciation. In fact, compared to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, Lin Yuan felt that Listen might be more useful to his faction. Indigo Azure City was not far from the royal capital. If one was quick, they could reach the royal capital from Indigo Azure City in 3 days. Should he help the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce get through this crisis and absorb Listen into his faction? He still needed to see Listen before he could make a decision. If Lin Yuan controlled the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce and let Listen continue to manage it, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce wouldn't be able to do so. In that case, Lin Yuan would definitely inject a lot of resources into the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Although Lin Yuan had a good impression of Listen, sometimes he still needed a willpower rune oath to be the most trustworthy. If he could not firmly control those small jigsaw puzzles hidden in the dark under his private faction's Sky City, he would not be able to survive. In that case, Lin Yuan felt that there was no need for these small puzzles. He first hung the 10 flower brocade pearls in his purchase with no loss store. Lin Yuan planned to continue using the blind trade mode after displaying the 10 flower brocade pearls. The intermediate strange flame that he had obtained last time could still be used for a period of time. Therefore, he chose to exchange for the Silver Flood Dragon Species Phase Essence Blood as his blind trade target. He would definitely be able to exchange the flower brocade pearls for the Silver Flood Dragon Species Phase Essence Blood. However, he wasn't sure how much he could get. However, the Flood Dragon Species Phase Essence Blood that could be exchanged for 10 flower brocade pearls should be enough for Blackie to use for a period of time. He did not care about the commotion he caused when he took out 10 flower brocade pearls and displayed them in his purchase with no loss store. During this period of time, many creation masters from the various factions had arrived. Although they were no longer staring at Lin Yuan's Star Web store like before, their attention did not decrease at all. Now, he had taken out 10 flower brocade pearls to display in his purchase with no loss store. This caused the attention that had not cooled down before to soar rapidly. This was because he had displayed 2 waves of flower brocade pearls in a row. Moreover, he displayed 10 of them each time. This proved that the number of flower brocade pearls in the purchase with no loss store was not small. Otherwise, they would not display such a resource that was useful to creation masters in such a large number in the store. These factions also noticed that Lin Yuan was still using the blind trade mode to exchange the flower brocade pearls this time. This made them secretly feel a pain in the ass. The blind trade mode was undoubtedly the most torturous among all the trading modes as it added more chips to lose. If they bet less, it was very likely that the items would be taken by other suckers who were not afraid of losing out. Lin Yuan had openly marked the resource he wanted to exchange, which was the Silver Flood Dragon Species Phase Essence Blood. This made the major factions and the creation masters who wanted to exchange for the flower brocade pearls a little confused. Silver Flood Dragon Species Phase Essence Blood was rare, but it did not have much use. This was because creation masters were undoubtedly more willing to use high-grade Flood Dragon Species Phase Essence Blood to concoct spirit fluids than Silver Flood Dragon Species Phase Essence Blood. Therefore, many creation masters and factions did not have such useless things like Silver Flood Dragon Species Phase Essence Blood in their hands. Therefore, the factions and creation masters who were paying attention to the purchase with no loss store's display of flower brocade pearls. They began to buy large quantities of Silver Flood Dragon Species Phase Essence Blood. Of course, Lin Yuan did not know about this situation. Anyway, he only wanted to exchange for the resources he needed. Even if he knew, Lin Yuan felt that the more Silver Flood Dragon Species Phase Essence Blood these factions and creation masters obtained, the better. In the end, they would all be harvested by him. Seeing that it was almost time, Lin Yuan went to the Star Web Center to wait for Endless Summer. Lin Yuan waited for a long time but did not see Endless Summer. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard a faint voice coming from beside him. Lin Yuan, I came before you. I've been looking at you for an hour, but you actually didn't recognize me. Lin Yuan immediately recognized that it was Endless Summer's voice. However, when Lin Yuan turned around, Endless Summer's attire gave him a shock. Lin Yuan saw a doll wrapped in star web clothing, which almost completely covered its body, standing beside him. Lin Yuan looked carefully for a long time before he could confirm that the person in the doll was Endless Summer through the two eyes that were exposed in the doll's hood. Lin Yuan could not help but hold his forehead. He really did not understand Endless Summer's aesthetic standards. In Lin Yuan's opinion, even if she had to wear a doll costume, it would be fine even if she had to dress up as a bee like the braised egghead. That would still be much better than Endless Summer's tree suit. Endless Summer's clothes were green, so green that Lin Yuan was flustered. Just like that, Lin Yuan brought a moving tree and went to the Star Web Center to handle the procedures. Under the staff's gaze as if it was an idiot, Endless Summer revealed its strength. Then, under the staff's gaze as if it was an immortal, Lin Yuan obtained the pass to set up a private faction on Star Web. After leaving the Star Web Center, Lin Yuan taught Endless Summer how to watch Star Web live streaming. Then, Lin Yuan helped Endless Summer find a fashion and beauty channel. Looking at the large number of Star Web fashion and beauty live streamers, Lin Yuan thought to himself. Endless Summer should be able to know that wearing this kind of tree doll outfit was not beautiful. Finally, after some selection, Lin Yuan helped Endless Summer choose a relatively simple women's clothing matching channel. Endless Summer originally liked those accessories and fashion. Now that it saw the Star Web fashion and beauty live streaming that Lin Yuan taught it to watch. This undoubtedly opened the door to a new world for the first time since Endless Summer reached Suzerain/Myth 3. Seeing that Endless Summer had gone to watch the fashion and beauty live streaming, Lin Yuan was relieved to buy the private faction's territory. Not long after Lin Yuan left, Endless Summer was watching enthusiastically when it realized that the live streaming channel that Lin Yuan had found for it was not broadcasting anymore. Therefore, after Endless Summer searched for it, she found two rather popular live broadcast channels. Endless Summer could not help but mutter. A 107-day documentary on becoming a crossdresser or a hairstyle teaching before the Spirit Chi awakening. Which one should I watch? Finally, after some hesitation, Endless Summer clicked on the hairstyle teaching before the Spirit Chi awakening. This made Endless Summer feel that a new world had opened up in the door to a new world. This new world was simply too wonderful. Latest update asking for votes. Recent nurturing is over. Starting to enter the plot. End of this chapter. Chapter 349. Lin Yuan did not need to think too much about the choice of Star Web's private faction territory. This was because every private faction could teleport directly, like when he went to the Radiance Sacred Altar. This was also the reason why Star Web was more convenient than reality. If one wanted to establish a faction on Star Web and buy a piece of territory, they would have to pay a fixed price of 50 million Radiance dollars. It was precisely because of this high price that many rising factions with insufficient foundations knew that it was very convenient to establish a private faction territory on Star Web. However, they still did not establish a faction territory on Star Web. In fact, it was not impossible for some rising factions to come up with 50 million Radiance dollars. This liquid capital would have a certain impact on their faction's development. However, this was compared to the convenience of establishing a faction territory on Star Web. The impact of this 50 million Radiance dollars on liquid capital was also negligible. The main reason why these rising factions did not establish a private faction on Star Web was that they did not have the money to establish a private faction territory. Rather than being laughed at by the rising and veteran factions with some foundations, it was better not to enjoy the convenience of establishing a faction on Star Web. It was better not to enjoy the convenience of establishing a faction on Star Web. For a faction, sometimes face was the most important. $50 million radiance was not difficult for Lin Yuan. After such a long time, even if Lin Yuan earned enough money from the purchase with no loss store, it was almost enough to establish a private faction territory. Moreover, there was still the pinnacle class for creation master Cheng Wu's radiance in the diamond phase storage box. In fact, Cheng Wu's radiance in the diamond phase storage box had been spent. During this period, Lin Yuan had spent more than half of it when building the mansion and buying all kinds of spiritual ingredients. It had to be known that the price of mid-grade energy ores in a diamond phase storage box was not cheap. The key was that there were simply too many mid-grade energy ores in a diamond phase storage box. At that time, in order to help Lin Yuan gather enough mid-grade energy ores, Zhou Jiesun had gone to the Chamber of Commerce that supplied her. She had requested to pick up the goods from the Chamber of Commerce that supplied her. This operation had even consumed 1/3 of the reserves of mid-grade energy ores of the Chamber of Commerce that supplied Zhou Jiesun. It was precisely because of the purchasing power of Zhou Jiesun's store. The Chamber of Commerce that supplied Zhou Jiesun's Star Web store had directly ranked it from the Class 3 customer position to the main customer position. During this time, Lin Yuan's main way of collecting resources was to exchange items instead of using his own resources to exchange for radiance dollars. As a result, almost all of his radiance dollars during this period came from his purchase with no loss store. If Lin Yuan were to continue spending money at his current pace, in that case, it would not take long for the radiance dollars he had earned from his Star Web store and the radiance dollars that Cheng Wu had contributed previously to be used up. However, Lin Yuan was not worried about this at all. Once the territory of the Star Web's private faction was constructed, the Star Web's private faction would be able to enter the Star Web. As long as he sent out the fate letter, there would be king-class experts who had comprehended a willpower rune or major factions rushing to contribute radiance dollars. All in exchange for the 1% chance of success in every letter. Now that he had the pass to build a faction on Star Web, he could not afford to do so. Without hesitation, he took 50 million radiance dollars from his Star Web card. At that moment, Lin Yuan received a message from the Star Web officials. According to the Star Web's official message, Lin Yuan only needed to wait for a moment. A Star Web official staff member came to help Lin Yuan introduce the relevant matters after opening up a private territory. After waiting for less than 5 minutes, Lin Yuan saw a middle-aged woman with short hair and professional attire walk over. When the middle-aged woman walked over and saw Lin Yuan, her expression clearly froze. This middle-aged woman had been explaining matters related to the establishment of a private faction's territory for a long period of time to the factions that had just opened their Star Web territories. However, this middle-aged woman had never seen a young man who looked obviously less than 20 years old directly open up a faction's territory on Star Web. Most emerging factions had developed for a long time in the real world and accumulated a lot of resources. Only then would they open up a faction's territory on Star Web. The minimum requirement for a faction to open up a private territory on Star Web was to have a pinnacle king-class expert as the martial support behind it. This youth in front of her had opened up a faction's territory on Star Web. This meant that this youth in front of her not only had a pinnacle king-class expert as the martial support behind him. He could also take out 50 million radiance dollars in cash at one time. This made the capable middle-aged woman involuntarily sigh. A youth actually had such amazing power in his hands. Although the heirs of some veteran factions with deep foundations did not have such power, the more the veteran faction's foundation was, the more they would not let their heirs go out alone. However, the more established a faction was, the more they wouldn't let their successor roam the world alone. As long as the entire faction worked together to develop in this direction, it would be fine. They would not rashly develop in other directions and touch the areas that their faction had not set foot in before. If they infringed on the interests of other factions' development direction, they would be severely suppressed. After all, the corresponding areas of development would have veteran factions that were at the absolute apex and had the advantage in this direction. After all, in the corresponding field of development, there were veteran forces that were at the absolute peak and had an advantage in this direction. The capable middle-aged woman was only stunned for a moment before she immediately returned to her best state. When Lin Yuan saw the middle-aged woman walk over, he hurriedly went up to greet her. She only froze for a moment before immediately returning to her best state. She introduced to Lin Yuan the relevant matters after opening up a faction on Star Web with extremely high quality. After listening to the middle-aged woman's introduction, Lin Yuan could not help but secretly nod. It might cost 50 million radiance dollars to open up a faction's territory on Star Web. However, in Lin Yuan's opinion, this 50 million radiance dollars was not spent in vain. As long as one opened up a faction's territory on Star Web, one would be able to obtain 3 rights. The first right was to be able to invite all the other factions on Star Web that had opened up a faction's territory. Regardless of whether it was a veteran faction or a rising faction, the Star Web officials would help to issue an invitation. They could invite other veteran factions and rising factions on Star Web to visit their faction's territory. In fact, this right was an excellent way to show one's faction's foundation to other factions. At the same time, through Star Web, one could also communicate with many rising factions and veteran factions that one could not come into contact with in reality. Chapter 1, End of this chapter. Chapter 350. In fact, it could even facilitate some cooperation during the exchange. It could be said that such a right alone could not achieve such a result even if he spent 50 million radiance dollars in reality. The second right was that before the construction of his personal territory was completed, he would not be able to do so. He could seal his faction's territory and not allow outsiders to enter. In fact, on Star Web, outsiders could not enter the interior of a private faction's territory without the owner's permission. However, people from other factions could freely enter and visit the external environment of a private faction's territory. This second right was completely to protect the face of some rising factions that had just built their faction's territory on Star Web and those lacking in foundation. The third right was the most useful to Lin Yuan. This was because the third right could release a message to all factions that had established on Star Web. This third right was not like the first one, which was to show one's faction's foundation and increase the accumulation of connections with other factions at the same time. The third right was to announce one's faction's development direction to all other factions. If the first right was to show one's foundation, then the third right was to show one's faction's function. Due to the different development directions of each faction, their functions were also completely different. Some private factions were formed by a group of experts who could be hired to complete some missions in exchange for resources. Some factions mainly sold some rare spiritual ingredients. Some factions searched for rare fays all over the world. Some factions relied on selling information to obtain resources. Different factions had a variety of functions, and Lin Yuan could use the third right after building his faction's territory on Star Web. He could announce his faction's function to other factions. The function derived from Lin Yuan's faction's development direction on Star Web was to be able to comprehend different willpower runes according to each spirit chi professional. He could order a bronze/epic fey that completely matched the willpower rune. In fact, Lin Yuan only planned to use the third of these 3 rights. With this third right, it was enough to show Lin Yuan's faction's golden signboard. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard the short-haired middle-aged woman say, "You must be careful when using these 3 rights. You must be careful when using these 3 rights. Except for the second right, the first and third rights can only be used once. After using them, even if you want to spend 50 million radiance dollars, you won't be able to buy this right." The middle-aged woman spoke very seriously, and Lin Yuan nodded to express his gratitude. After the middle-aged woman left, Lin Yuan teleported into his faction's territory. He found that this faction territory was built according to the model of a B-class guild club. The environment outside was very simple and was filled with green flowers and plants. It could be considered quite elegant. The interior of the territory was a standard house. The shape of this house could not be changed, but the internal space of a private organization could be changed at will. After entering the private faction's interior, he found that it was nearly 2,000 square meters in size. In such a large space, there was only this long table and nothing else. The long table inside the territory of a private organization and the flowers and plants outside the organization could all be modified. As long as he placed the items scanned by the star web card inside or outside the faction, the transformation could be completed. As the owner of the private faction territory, he could change the interior layout of the house at will. This was the first time he had changed the layout of his private forces rooms for free after he had opened them. After that, he would have to pay 100,000 radiance dollars to the star web officials for every change. Lin Yuan couldn't help but sigh. Only the star web officials knew how to make money. At that moment, the 2,000 square meter area inside the private faction was like an office. It was divided into a total of 3 floors and many rooms. Lin Yuan completely erased all these structures. He turned this 2,000 square meter area into a separate space. This was Lin Yuan's plan. He planned to build this star web private faction's interior into a grand hall. Since it was outside the star web private faction's territory, Lin Yuan did not intend to build it. Therefore, he had to be able to deter other factions inside. Lin Yuan did not care about the foundation of those rising factions. The key was to intimidate those veteran factions that had class 4 creation masters overseeing them. Although there were no decorations in this grand hall of nearly 2,000 square meters, just by looking at its spacious area, one could feel a grand aura. Since Lin Yuan's private faction was built on the floating island whale's back, he planned to call it Sky City. Therefore, this star web private faction's grand hall should be designed to be like in the sky. Since Lin Yuan's private faction was built on the floating island whale's back, he planned to call it Sky City. However, he was not in a hurry to immediately start the construction of this hall. He took out the bronze/legend oath lily of the valley and placed the pagoda-shaped bronze/legend oath lily of the valley, which flickered with a lustrous white halo, on the free long table in the hall. Then, he left Star Web. However, when he left Star Web, he did not use the second right after establishing a faction. Therefore, after Lin Yuan's faction was built, apart from the main hall in the territory, no one could enter. The external environment was displayed to all the other forces, regardless of whether they were rising forces or veteran forces. Lin Yuan did not care so much. Not long after he logged off Star Web, his phone rang. Lin Yuan picked up the phone and realized it was an unfamiliar number. However, when he picked up the phone, he recognized that it was Listen who had called. Great God, I might have to postpone my trip to Royal City for a while. Listen paused slightly at this point. Before Lin Yuan could ask for the reason, Listen said, "That's right. Great God, I plan to clean up the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's interior before going to the Royal City to see you. After that, I'll move it from Indigo Azure City to the Royal City. Anyway, most of the resources controlled by the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce are on Star Web. It won't affect those offline resources even if they move to the Royal City." When Lin Yuan listened to Listen, he could hear the firmness and sincerity in his words. This made Lin Yuan raise his eyebrows. This might be the reason why Listen could become the Eye of the Storm in his purchase with No Lost Stores fan club. Today's second update, end of this chapter. Chapter 351. It was supposed to be just a meeting and discussion. He only showed that he was considering accepting Listen and the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's allegiance. But even so, Listen had taken out all his sincerity and removed all the chaos and unstable factors in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. After that, he would show Listen the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's best situation to him. It was not so much that Listen was fighting for a chance to be loyal to him. It was more like he was responsible for the decision that Lin Yuan was going to make. Listen was a little nervous after he finished speaking about his plan. At that moment, he heard the youth's sunny and magnetic voice on the other end of the phone. Okay. Upon hearing this word, on the other end of the phone, Listen, who was a little nervous, immediately smiled. Then, he decided to cut the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's chaotic situation as soon as possible within this week and carry out a ruthless change. After experiencing the previous incident, Listen understood a principle. Any unstable factor was a fatal variable at a life and death juncture. Even if it was advantageous before, it could become the most ruthless knife to the core at a life and death juncture. After hanging up the phone, Lin Yuan went to take a shower. He felt that it was time to adjust his work and rest schedule. In the past 2 days, everything in the mansion was going on in an unstable manner. Wen Yu was analyzing the information of the major veteran factions. Take a faction, for example. The resources in terms of information were often equivalent to the faction's eyes and ears. Almost all the information in Lin Yuan's private faction came from Wen Yu. The source of information that Wen Yu came into contact with came from the Radiant Moon Palace. This directly ensured that Lin Yuan's information on the major factions was 100% accurate. The Radiant Moon Palace's information on the major factions, whether they were new or veteran factions, was like an instruction manual. However, under Wen Yu's arrangement, all the information was organized into the most suitable for Lin Yuan's private faction. In the past 2 days, Lin Yuan had to go to the Radiant Moon Palace almost every day. He went to have a question-and-answer session with his master, the Moon Empress. Previously, when the Moon Empress was having a question-and-answer session, it was mainly Lin Yuan asking and the Moon Empress answering. However, during this time, Lin Yuan did not go out to train. He spent almost all his time enhancing phase in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not have so many questions to ask the Moon Empress. Thus, the question-and-answer session for the past 2 days became the Moon Empress asking and Lin Yuan thinking. The Moon Empress answering and Lin Yuan remembering the answers. Then, according to the Moon Empress' previous question, Lin Yuan started to ponder. Lin Yuan asked again, and the Moon Empress answered again. After going back and forth 3 times, Lin Yuan was basically able to integrate all of these problems. For the past 2 days, every time Lin Yuan left, Mystic Moon would tremble in fear. Mystic Moon couldn't understand why the Moon Empress was so happy. To the Moon Empress, during the past 2 days of question-and-answer sessions, she finally experienced the feeling of teaching a disciple. This feeling gave the Moon Empress a sense of accomplishment. Most of the questions Lin Yuan had asked the Moon Empress were problems he was currently facing. After asking the Moon Empress, he received the answer to his current question. Lin Yuan immediately understood the problems that he had not understood before, and he was suddenly enlightened. However, he had only encountered a small number of problems, so the questions he asked were rather one-sided. During these 2 days, the Moon Empress would teach him the problems or knowledge that he needed to learn at this stage. The Moon Empress used a question-and-answer method to teach Lin Yuan. This gave Lin Yuan a new understanding of many of his views. The Moon Empress had always been an overbearing person. However, when she decided to accept Lin Yuan as a disciple, she had already made plans. In the Moon Empress' opinion, accepting a disciple wasn't about managing the disciple. Teaching a disciple wasn't about controlling the disciple. Therefore, after understanding Lin Yuan's thoughts and persistence, the Moon Empress retreated behind him. She had been using her own way to do what a master should do for Lin Yuan. This was a master's respect for her disciple. In fact, in Mystic Moon and Cold Moon's opinion, the Moon Empress had never been a person who was good at expressing her feelings. However, in the past half a year, the Moon Empress had been a teacher in a flurry after deciding to accept a disciple. Now, she was able to watch her disciple grow in her own way. This was Lin Yuan's progress, and it was also the Moon Empress's progress. In the Moon Empress' eyes, her disciple was her inheritance. For the past few days, Lin Yuan had been learning the Moon Empress knowledge. After returning to the mansion, he had raised nearly 50 black dragon-eye spirit siphon goldfish in the spirit pool. Every half a day, he would drip a drop of diluted dragon species blood. The effect of dragon species blood and dragon species blood essence was completely different. For a low-grade dragon species Fae, all the blood in its body wouldn't be able to condense into 5 drops of essence blood. This kind of bloodline stimulation required a process, and it would take at least half a month for there to be an effect. At the same time, the massive and pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone allowed these dragon-eye spirit siphon goldfish's grade and quality to increase very quickly. Lin Yuan had also arranged for Gray's tang fish. The tang fish couldn't be considered a fei. It was just a fish that grew in grass ponds. Its bones were very soft, and its flesh contained an extremely high amount of sugar. It had an excellent effect on Gray's nutrition. As a crane species fei, apart from its gray feathers, Gray could already be considered skinny. It was already so skinny that it was only skin and bones. Therefore, Gray didn't just have to repair its damaged genetic model, it also had to replenish the nutrition that its body lacked. For the past 2 days, Lin Yuan had been sleeping very early. Under normal circumstances, he would probably be able to wake up around 7:30 am, but this morning, Lin Yuan was still sleeping when he heard a knock on the door. This knock on the door woke him up from his sleep. But before Lin Yuan could open his eyes, he heard the mother of Bloodbath's voice coming from the door. "Lin Yuan, it's getting late. Quickly tidy up and come down for breakfast." Lin Yuan was still a little dazed from being suddenly woken up. "Got it. I'll tidy up now." After 3 to 5 minutes, Lin Yuan opened his eyes. By the time Lin Yuan opened his eyes, he was already fully awake. Lin Yuan helplessly tidied up his slightly deformed hair, which had just gotten out of bed. Looking at the hair on his head that was standing up, Lin Yuan decisively went to take a shower. After taking a shower and drying his hair until it was half dry, Lin Yuan went downstairs. Normally, the mother of Bloodbath didn't have the habit of waking people up for breakfast. Now that the mother of Bloodbath was abnormally waking people up for breakfast, there was only one possibility. Third update asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 352. That meant Lu Jia was back. Otherwise, even if the mother of Bloodbath was a foodie, it would not be so enthusiastic about breakfast. Sure enough, when Lin Yuan went downstairs, he found Lu Jia carrying breakfast from the kitchen to the dining table. Before Lin Yuan could even see what breakfast was, he was stunned. Based on the smell alone, Lin Yuan knew that Lu Jia should have steamed small soup dumplings and crab roe soup dumplings in the morning. Lin Yuan originally thought that he was already fast enough, but he realized that he was actually the last one to come down. At this time, Hu Quan was waiting for his meal in high spirits. Lin Yuan knew from Hu Quan's mental state and the completely jade-textured wood fragments on the ground in the hall. Hu Quan had worked himself up again last night. On the other hand, Wen Yu was helping Lu Jia. Trays after trays of soup dumplings and crab roe soup dumplings were placed on the dining table made of jade-textured wood. Before they were done, the drawers containing the soup dumplings and crab roe dumplings were piled up high. However, no matter how many Xylong Bayonne crab roe soup dumplings there were, he would not be able to eat them. It should not be enough for the mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer. As a suzerain/myth breed fey, Endless Summer ate a lot. However, Endless Summer wasn't very passionate about eating. Endless Summer was holding a small mirror and fiddling with her hair. Upon seeing Lin Yuan come down, Endless Summer immediately ran over and spoke. "Lin Yuan, the Star Web livestream you recommended me to watch yesterday was simply amazing. For the first time, I learned that color can give new life to hair." Lin Yuan revealed a pretty boy's puzzled expression. "Didn't I show Endless Summer how to dress yesterday? What does it have to do with hair?" However, seeing how happy Endless Summer was, Lin Yuan went along with her. Actually, sometimes a single color doesn't look as good as it looks. Lin Yuan recalled the green clothes that Endless Summer had worn yesterday and could not help but say. Endless Summer nodded in excitement and agreement. "I think so too. Less than 3 colors can't be called fashion. More than 5 colors is called taste." Lin Yuan revealed a pretty boy's puzzled expression. What he said just now was just a tactful way of telling Endless Summer that green looked much better when paired with other colors. But if it was some plain color, a single color wouldn't be a problem. Moreover, 2 or 3 colors should be enough for the clothing. If there were more than 5 colors, it would look like a Christmas tree. The mother of Bloodbath saw that Endless Summer and Lin Yuan were still talking endlessly. He snatched the small mirror from Endless Summer's hands and said, "Sister Xia, let's eat first. We'll talk after dinner." Endless Summer sat at the dining table and said to the mother of Bloodbath, "Let me tell you, Blood Sister, I've discovered the secret of fashion. When we go shopping later, let's go get styled together. I'll design one for you. I guarantee you'll like it." Lin Yuan felt that he had just found a simple way to match Endless Summer's clothes. It couldn't have inspired Endless Summer that much, right? How did she connect the two? Could it be that Endless Summer had an innate fashion sense? It was just a live stream about matching outfits. How did Endless Summer become Chartoni? Everyone in the manor had a very comfortable breakfast. It had to be said that Lu Jie's craftsmanship was really superb. This time, Lu Jie had made a lot of soup dumplings and crab roe dumplings with various fillings, which satisfied the mother of Bloodbath. Just as Lin Yuan was about to ask Lu Jie about the Radiance 100 sequences ranking, Lu Jie suddenly stopped. Lu Jie said solemnly to himself, "Lin Yuan, if it wasn't for you, my insect queen would have evolved into a fantasy breed and replicated the source-type hurricane owlet moth with its platinum ability. I'm afraid I can't even enter the top 70 of the Radiance 100 sequence." Lu Jie's face was solemn when he said that. Lu Jie originally thought that he would be able to reserve the insect queen's platinum ability for the Radiance 100 sequence test as his trump card. However, when Lu Jie challenged the Radiance 100 sequence 30, Formless Entanglement, and Blue Fullness, he nearly failed. When Lu Jie was about to shake his Radiance 100 sequence ranking, Lan Pang revealed the trump card that he had never revealed before. If it weren't for Lu Jie's prompt decision to have the insect queen use its platinum skill to produce 7 hurricane owlet moths, Lu Jie wouldn't have been able to do so. He then let the 7 hurricane owlet moths create a hurricane and control it. Lu Jie was probably going to fail this time. This also let Lu Jie know that he was not the only one who was improving. In fact, his previous companions had not been silent for more than 3 years like him and had improved even more. At the same time, he was fighting the Radiance 100 sequence 30, Formless Entanglement, Lu Pang. This made Lu Jie feel his limitations in combat. This limitation was that Lu Jie could only contract one source-type life form, the Insect Queen. The source-type Insect Queen's contract almost occupied all the spiritual energy in Lu Jie's mind. This also made it impossible for Lu Jie to contract any other phase. At the same time, according to the Insect Queen's characteristics, apart from the Insect Queen, Lu Jie could not contract a second Fey or source-type life form in this lifetime. Although the Insect Queen was powerful, it could create 5 types of insects now that it had reached the platinum level. It seemed to have an absolute advantage in terms of numbers, allowing Lu Jie to be like an insect swarm on the battlefield. However, as Lu Jie became stronger, the opponents he encountered also became stronger. Gradually, the Insect Queen's problem was revealed. It was the 5 types of insect phase recorded in the Insect Queen's 5 abilities. Lu Jie could choose any combination, and it was almost perfect. However, apart from the hurricane owlet moth, these 5 types of insect phase had different genetic models. The other 4 types of insect phase might have simpler genetic models, but they were still a little weak. Sometimes, numbers could not give an absolute advantage. While the number reached the standard, the strength of the individual phase was equally important. Lu Jie's Insect Queen's grade was getting higher, and the insect phase produced according to the genetic model were also getting stronger. However, such an improvement was far from enough for opponents who had several fantasy breed phase. Therefore, this Radiance 100 sequence competition forced Lu Jie to face his own problem. Thus, until now, Lu Jie's mood was a little heavy. If this development continued, even if the Insect Queen's grade was upgraded to Diamond, it would not be enough. The Diamond ability recorded a type of insect phase gene with a simple genetic model and extremely powerful gene. It would increase Lu Jie's ability again, allowing his strength to take another step forward. However, it would definitely not allow Lu Jie's strength to have a qualitative leap. Chapter 1, End of this chapter. Chapter 353. This situation was what the spirit chi professionals said. The later they got, the more powerless they became. However, Lu Jie did not have the ability to change this problem. Lin Yuan saw that Lu Jie's expression was a little off, so he kept it in mind. Now that everyone was at the dining table, it would be awkward for Lu Jie to ask him if there was really a problem. Lin Yuan thought that after breakfast, he would ask Lu Jie what problem he had encountered when no one was around. As long as the mother of Bloodbath was around, it would definitely be the top eater. Therefore, be it the soup dumplings or crab roe soup dumplings, there was nothing left. After eating, Lu Jie began to clean up the mess on the table. Wen Yu returned to her room and began to sort out the major factions' information. Hu Quan had been working hard for the whole night, and now he was having breakfast. Hu Quan's eyelids had started to struggle, and he was ready to go back to his room and sleep until noon. In the past, the mother of Bloodbath was more active when it went out, but this time, it was almost as if endless summer had dragged it out excitedly. Lin Yuan sat on the sofa made of water rhinoceros leather in the hall and drank the Three Treasures tea that Wen Yu had brewed in the morning. Lin Yuan did not like the taste of the Three Treasures tea very much. However, when he drank a sip of the Three Treasures tea in this early winter season, the oil secreted by the pine nuts in the tea went into his mouth and into his stomach. It gave birth to a few traces of warmth out of thin air. The taste of the Buddha's hand flower was relatively bland and even a little bitter. However, this bitterness started from the tip of the tongue and spread to the base of the tongue before disappearing. At the same time, there would be a strange sweet aftertaste in an instant. It was somewhat like, I have a bright pearl that has been locked up by the dust for a long time. Now that the dust is gone, the light is born, and it shines through the mountains and rivers. The bitterness of the Buddha's hand flower in the mouth turned into a blazing sweetness before it reached the throat. This feeling of sweetness after bitterness, one could distinguish a trace of happiness in it. This mansion was like a big family. Lu Jie took on the job of cooking, sharing and harvesting the taste of happiness while cooking. Wen Yu took on the job of washing clothes. Although the lustrous winged butterflies in the manor could clean all the dust in the manor without a speck of dust. As long as the lustrous winged butterflies flew around for a while, even the dirt on the body would be as clean as new. Even if the clothes were stained with large clumps of mud, the lustrous winged butterfly could help remove them. Therefore, it was reasonable to say that everyone in the mansion did not need to wash clothes or take a bath. However, bathing was never just to wash away the dust. It was also a way to relax. Therefore, the people in the manor still maintained the habit of bathing. Although the lustrous winged butterfly could make clothes very clean, Wen Yu still habitually cleaned everyone in the manor except for their undergarments. The clothes he had changed out of were cleaned. Everything in the manor's main residence was in good order. After a while, Lu Jie cleaned up the tableware that he had eaten in the morning. Lin Yuan was sitting on the water rhinoceros leather sofa. Lu Jie walked over and sat beside Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan, I heard a piece of news when I participated in the Radiance 100 sequence. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan asked. Big brother Lu, are there any changes to the Radiance 100 sequence test this year? Lu Jie was a little surprised to hear that. He had not expected Lin Yuan to guess so accurately. It is said that the Radiance 100 sequence test method is going to undergo a huge change this year, but the specific test content has not been announced yet. But when I participated in the Radiance 100 sequence ranking test, I heard that the Celestial Stairway on Star Web used to be one-on-one competitions. Now, the Celestial Stairway is going to set up a 2-on-2 duel. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up when he heard Lu Jie's words. Lin Yuan did not care about the changes in the Radiance 100 sequence test. No matter how the test changed, there was nothing for Lin Yuan to worry about. However, he heard that the Celestial Stairway that Lu Jie had mentioned could form a 2-on-2 team after a period of time and have a 2-on-2 duel. Lin Yuan was really interested. Lin Yuan had been watching the recent S tournament on Star Web, even though the current S tournament was not interesting yet. Even though the S tournament was not very interesting now, it was still in the elimination stage, and the strong teams could instantly kill the weak teams. The duels between the weak teams were mostly the home ground of some silver phase. Occasionally, there would be a few gold phase duels, which were considered exciting parts. This also greatly reduced the level of viewing. However, when Lin Yuan watched the 5-on-5 duels between teams, he only felt his blood boil. This was because most of the one-on-one duels were a competition of individual strength, which was the phase grade and quality. Under the premise of equal strength, one would use one's intellect to affect the duel's outcome. Therefore, in the end, the Star Web one-on-one duels were still based on individual strength and intellect. However, when Lin Yuan watched the team competition, he found that it mainly relied on the cooperation between the teams. Although absolute strength could crush the opposing team in the team competition, sometimes, cooperation and strategy could directly affect the direction of the battle. Chapter 354. Although Lu Jia had returned to the Radiance 100 sequence and entered the top ranks of the Radiance 100 sequence, he was not as strong as before. However, in terms of the number of celestial stairway stars, Lu Jia should be considered the lowest among the Radiance 100 sequence 100 members. Lin Yuan was only a 1-star celestial stairway now, so he still needed to win 11 duels in a row if he wanted to team up with Lu Jia. Lin Yuan originally did not want to challenge the Celestial Stairway again. However, Lu Jia had said that the Celestial Stairway would open in the future, and they would form a team to duel. It truly ignited Lin Yuan's fighting spirit. Lu Jia was obviously very excited. However, he was not excited about the 2v2 Celestial Stairway duel. Instead, he was excited about being able to form a 2-man squad and fight alongside Lin Yuan. Lu Jia's celestial stairway stars were far inferior to Black's celestial stairway stars. Moreover, there was a difference of 16 stars. However, Lu Jia did not take the initiative to remove the stars. Taking the initiative to remove his star would go against his principles. Instead, it became an insult and mistrust of Lin Yuan. Lu Jia said as he recalled the scene of him and Lin Yuan fighting side by side in the Celestial Stairway's 2v2 duel. Lin Yuan, actually, my insect queen's normal ability, Bayonet Beetle, can provide flesh energy for your plant Fey. Lu Jia was very excited when he said this, but Lin Yuan was stunned. Lu Jia had always been a power offense-type spirit chi professional. The source-type insect queen was more versatile in all aspects. However, under Lu Jia's choice of skills, the insect queen still focused on attacking in different directions. As for the bayonet beetles created by Lu Jia's insect queen, although feeding them to Red Thorn could increase the speed at which the sea of flowers spread, however, this was equivalent to Lu Jia giving up on the offensive capabilities of his bayonet beetles. The bayonet beetle might be an insect species Fey that had been inscribed with a normal ability template, but it was a normal Fey. However, if one really wanted to talk about the core of Lu Jia's battle strategy, it would undoubtedly be this normal bayonet beetle. It was precisely because of the existence of the bayonet beetle that Lu Jia was known as the heart of the swarm. However, Lin Yuan's strength was far inferior to Lu Jia's. Lu Jia's source-type insect queen was ultimately a platinum/fantasy breed. As a Radiance 100 sequence member and Lin Yuan's retainer, Lu Jia also had his pride in battle. This pride in battle drove Lu Jia to not rely on others in battle. But now, Lu Jia's attitude had changed. Lin Yuan could not help but think of Lu Jia's troubled and solemn expression when he was eating in the morning. Big brother Lu, did you encounter any difficult problems in the Radiance 100 sequence ranking? Lin Yuan sensed the change in Lu Jia's mentality, so he asked very bluntly. After all, such a change in mentality wasn't a trivial matter for a spirit chi professional. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's question, Lu Jia suddenly laughed silently. Lu Jia had heard the same thing before. Lu Jia remembered that the last time he heard about it was at the private auction held by the King Stage Powerhouse. When his expression had changed when he had seen the hurricane owlet moth, Lin Yuan had asked him the same question indifferently. However, after that simple question, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. In the blink of an eye, the hurricane owlet moth was delivered to him. The scene then was exactly the same as it is now. Lu Jia was also very frank about what was on his mind. Lin Yuan, I realized that as my strength increases, the insect queen is slowly becoming more and more limited. Therefore, I plan to shift my combat ability to support in my future battles. Now that the insect queen is already platinum level 7, I'll be able to complete my transformation to support after it advances to diamond level. As Lin Yuan listened to Lu Jia's words, he heard a sense of helplessness and powerlessness. As the insect queen grew to the later stages, it would face multiple fantasy breed phase of the same grade. They would indeed be somewhat restrained and would no longer be able to rely on the insect swarm to suppress the battlefield in the past. It was not Lu Jia's fault for having such a mentality. On the contrary, Lu Jia was finding a way out for himself as a spirit chi professional. It was like an underground spring, gushing toward the ground. If they encountered a hard rock that their strength could not break through, they would have to change the path of the spring in order to be able to spurt out of the ground. Lu Jia was making such a decision. Lin Yuan looked at Lu Jia with a very serious expression. Big brother Lu, do you prefer a combat-type spirit chi professional or a support-type spirit chi professional? Lin Yuan's words made Lu Jia fall silent. The insect queen was a source-type life form that could develop in any direction. Even if Lu Jia wanted to become a healing-type spirit chi professional, the rarest among all spirit chi professionals, the insect queen only needed to use its ability to inscribe the genetic model of a healing-type insect species Fei. Lu Jia could become a healing-type spirit chi professional. However, Lu Jia did not choose this way. Instead, he firmly walked the path of a combat-type spirit chi professional. When a person looked at the future, if there was a choice in the beginning, how could it be easily changed? Lin Yuan looked at Lu Jia and suddenly wore a sunny smile on his face, revealing his small white teeth. Lin Yuan took out a source-type cocoon of evolution from the diamond face storage box that he had originally prepared for Lu Jia. This source-type cocoon of evolution was originally a congratulatory gift to celebrate Lu Jia's return to the Radiance 100 sequence. However, it was more meaningful to not use it as a congratulatory gift for Lu Jia's promotion to the Radiance 100 sequence. If a spring was blocked by a boulder, it could only get out by turning. Then this source-type cocoon of evolution would allow this spring to move forward and smash the boulder to spew out the ground. If this source-type cocoon of evolution could let Lu Jia regain his confidence and stick to the path he had always wanted to take, then, this source-type item would really make the best use of it. Big brother Lu, I found this by chance. You can use it. When Lu Jia saw the source-type item that Lin Yuan handed over, a bitter smile appeared on his face. After Lu Jia contracted the source-type life form, the insect queen, he could no longer contract any other source-type items or phase. How could Lu Jia not know this? However, Lin Yuan was the one who handed him this source-type item, so he hurriedly took it. However, when Lu Jia took a closer look at the source-type item in his hand, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. At that moment, Lu Jia felt a sense of joy from the bottom of his heart. It made Lu Jia feel a little choked up. The cocoon of evolution made of white mycelium in his hand seemed to weigh 5,000 kilograms. Lu Jia looked up and found that the youth sitting next to him was smiling brightly. Baiduan read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 355. Lin Yuan knew that Lu Jia was not a creation master, so it was impossible for him to fully know the function of this source-type cocoon of evolution. However, as a spirit chi professional, when he obtained a source-type item, he could sense whether he could use it or not. Lin Yuan watched as Lu Jia looked up at him with eyes full of surprise. His hand holding the source-type cocoon of evolution was still trembling slightly with great joy. Lin Yuan explained the use of the source-type cocoon of evolution. At this time, Lu Jia heard the youth in front of him say with a bright smile. Big brother Lu, this source-type cocoon of evolution is not for you to contract but for the insect queen to parasitize. When the time comes, as long as the insect queen provides nutrients for the cocoon of evolution to evolve and improve its quality, the insect queen's skills will be strengthened every time the cocoon of evolution advances a grade. Lu Jia already knew that he could not contract phase or source-type items after contracting the insect queen. However, when he got the source-type item, the cocoon of evolution, he unexpectedly found that he could contract it. This was equivalent to giving Lu Jia another path to take, regardless of whether the source-type item in his hand was suitable for him. However, Lu Jia's situation didn't give him the right to say that he would rather have nothing than have something shoddy. But when she heard the words of this sunny and smiling young man, she felt a chill run down her spine. Lu Jia felt as if a resplendent firework had exploded in his mind, creating the most beautiful floating life scroll. There was no one in this world who understood himself and the insect queen better than Lu Jia. Therefore, Lu Jia knew very well what Lin Yuan had said and what the cocoon of evolution in his hand meant. This did not only mean that the insect queen could become stronger, but it also meant that he could continue down the path he had chosen. Suddenly, tears welled up in the corner of Lu Jia's eyes. A drop of hot tears flowed down from the tip of his nose, as if it had never appeared before. During the 3 years of silence and despair, Lu Jia did not shed a single tear. If there was anything in this world that could make him cry, it would be tears of joy. Lu Jia's eyes were filled with gratitude, but he didn't say any words of thanks like before. In the first desperate situation, it was this young man who lit up the light and saved the endangered insect queen, as well as himself. During the second opportunity to enhance the Fae, this youth had lit up the torch, giving him a chance that he wouldn't have a second chance if he missed it once. The third time was when he denied himself for the first time, trying to find a way out of the path that he had denied himself before. This young man was like a sun, illuminating the path that she couldn't cross, allowing her to firmly walk down the path that she had chosen. He had given her a new lease of life twice. Any kind of gratitude would seem hypocritical. Therefore, Lu Jia did not say any words of gratitude. It was faith in the first place, and he had already intended to repay it with his life. There was no need for him to thank him. In Lu Jia's opinion, no matter how strong he became in the future, it was all for the sake of protecting the young man in front of him. Lin Yuan was laughing, and so was Lu Jia. However, Lin Yuan was smiling because the source-type cocoon of evolution had helped him untie the knot in his heart and made him firm on the path he wanted to take. Lu Jia was smiling because his smile contained his silent gratitude and faith. After playing with Lu Jia for a while, he planned to head to the celestial stairway to fight. According to Lu Jia, the stairways 2v2 duels would happen within this month. Lin Yuan was only a celestial 1-star now. Therefore, if he wanted to have a 2v2 duel on the Star Web Celestial Stairway, he would form a 2-man team with Lu Jia to fight such a small 2-man team competition. In this month, Lin Yuan would have to at least reach Celestial 1 stars to Celestial 12 stars. Now that he was fighting on the Celestial Stairway, Lin Yuan did not dare to guarantee that he could win all the battles. After all, there were many experts on the Celestial Stairway. What if he encountered a crazy big shot who stuck on the Celestial Stairway to do a live broadcast for the sake of the live broadcast effect? Even if Lin Yuan had the gold /fantasy eye source sand as a trump card, he did not dare to guarantee that he could win all the battles. It was very likely that he would fail at some point, but the probability of that was very small. However, as long as Lin Yuan won 11 more matches than he lost in the next Celestial Stairway duels, it would be fine. Lin Yuan used Black's identity to log on to Star Web this time. He was ready to go to the Celestial Stairway to start the Celestial Stairway duels. However, Lin Yuan did not know that he had used his Creation Master identity to open a Star Web private territory on Star Web. Last night, he had become the laughing stock of the other factions that had opened their faction territories on Star Web. In fact, the veteran factions that had opened their faction territories on Star Web were fine. The veteran forces had deep foundations, and these veteran forces with rich foundations mostly looked down on the rising forces with a little bit of foundation. On the other hand, the rising factions with a little foundation mostly despised those rising factions without much foundation. Such a chain of contempt spread under the sense of superiority directly made those rising factions without much foundation always be at the bottom of the star web's chain of contempt. But now, they suddenly found that a faction had just established a territory on Star Web. Many of these rising factions without much foundation had the idea of paying a visit. For the rising factions, it did not matter whether the private faction that had newly opened a territory on Star Web was powerful or rich in foundation. There was no harm in paying a visit. If the private faction that had newly opened a territory on Star Web was powerful, then it would be considered as building a good impression. If the private faction that had newly opened a territory on Star Web was weak, then they could always huddle together for warmth. At that time, Lin Yuan had not closed the private faction's external access rights. This caused these rising factions without much foundation to see that Lin Yuan's faction maintained its appearance when it had just opened a private territory. These rising factions without much foundation seemed to have discovered a new continent and finally found a target that they could despise. The establishment of a private faction's territory on Star Web was a kind of diplomatic display of one's faction's foundation with other factions. Therefore, among these rising factions without much foundation, Lin Yuan's private faction that had just opened a territory on Star Web had already been imperceptibly used as a talking point for these rising factions to show their sense of superiority. Therefore, among these rising factions without much foundation, Lin Yuan's private faction that had just opened a territory on Star Web had already become a talking point for these rising factions to show their sense of superiority. However, Lin Yuan's newly opened private faction was not much in the eyes of those rising factions with a foundation. After all, if these rising factions with a foundation wanted to find a sense of superiority, they could completely find it in those rising factions without foundation. It was like a person could find a sense of superiority in those who were slightly inferior to them. However, this sense of superiority was already very faint in those who were too far apart from them. After all, they were a few levels apart. The late first update, end of this chapter. Chapter 356. This was because the sense of superiority often only existed between people of similar levels. If the level difference was too great, this sense of superiority would turn into a sense of distance. They weren't on the same level, so the energy and resources they possessed were worlds apart. This was also the reason why those rising forces without any foundation were unable to gain the recognition of the veteran forces. He couldn't even be bothered to look down on them. It could be said that he had not done anything after setting up his faction territory on Star Web. However, he did not use the second right after opening his private territory. This made Lin Yuan's faction a bumpkin in the eyes of those rising factions without any foundation. However, this also gave his faction a lot of attention. However, these gazes were filled with contempt and curiosity. However, these rising forces that did not have any foundation did not know this. That was a private force that they regarded as country bumpkins. They could not enter the interior of the private property. There was a pot of bronze/legend oath lily of the valley that they wouldn't even dare to dream of. He did not know that he had used his identity as a creation master to set up a private faction territory on Star Web and was regarded as a country bumpkin. However, even if Lin Yuan knew, he would probably only feel a little amused. When Lin Yuan logged into the Star Web as Black, he saw Tian Ningning's message. Tian Ningning, Black, I heard that the Star Web Celestial Stairway is going to add a new Celestial Stairway dual mode, but I'm not sure what it is yet. When Lin Yuan saw Tian Ningning's message, he couldn't help but raise his brows. According to Lu Jia, he had just heard about the new 2v2 duel on the Star Web Celestial Stairway from the Radiant Sacred Hall. Although this was not confidential information, it had only been a few hours since Lu Jia learned about it. At this time, Tian Ningning had already heard the news, even though the information she knew was not complete. However, with Tian Ningning's identity as a Star Web columnist, it was indeed very convenient for her to obtain some of the latest news. Based on the timing, Tian Ningning must have told him as soon as she heard the news. Lin Yuan could not help but sigh. It was really convenient to have an exclusive reporter on Star Web. Ever since Tian Ningning became Lin Yuan's exclusive reporter, he only needed to leave everything on Star Web to Tian Ningning to handle. When Lin Yuan had just ascended the celestial stairway, his combat video had been recorded in the Star Web video library. Tian Ningning was the one who helped Lin Yuan handle the various matters regarding the profits from the battle recordings. This saved Lin Yuan a lot of trouble. Lin Yuan replied to Tian Ningning. Black, I know. I'm going to fight in the celestial stairway duel. Do you want a first-person view? When Tian Ningning saw Lin Yuan's message, she shook her ponytail in a daze. Tian Ningning didn't know whether Black knew what she had just said when he said, "Knew." He finally knew what the new duel mode on the stairway to heaven was. In fact, it wasn't just Tian Ningning. Many people on Star Web were also guessing Black's identity. After all, if Hei Ruo was just an ordinary spirit chi professional, how could she be equipped with so many high-quality Feis? Moreover, Black's contracted Feis had source-type items. A high-quality source-type item was different from a high-quality Fei. High-quality Feis could be purchased and contracted, but high-quality source-type lifeforms were within the capabilities of Class 4 creation masters. As such, Black's identity had become the husband of many young girls on Star Web. When Lin Yuan appeared as Black, he wore Genius's tool transformation mask. However, Lin Yuan's misunderstood aloofness attracted the attention of many fans. However, since Black's identity had been confirmed to be a youth, it also made Lin Yuan's fans the most among his fans. Most of these mom fans were the male moms who were crazily cheering for Lin Yuan. Tian Ningning might be puzzled, but she wouldn't ask Lin Yuan about this kind of personal question about his identity. Because Tian Ningning knew what to say and what not to say. As Black's exclusive reporter, Tian Ningning had always done her job well and tried her best to maintain Black's image and interests. According to Lin Yuan's request, she would report all the news about Black truthfully. However, when Tian Ningning saw that Black was going to fight in the celestial stairway duel and asked if she wanted a first-person view, Tian Ningning was immediately overjoyed and replied without hesitation. Yes. I want it. I really want it. Lin Yuan looked at Tian Ningning's message with some doubt. There is only one first-person view. I can't give you 3. Lin Yuan immediately chose to match his opponent on the celestial stairway. After he was matched with an opponent, he shared the first-person view with Tian Ningning. If Black was the most popular on Star Web, it would undoubtedly be Black's official fan club and the official forum. However, the third most popular place on Star Web was definitely the Celestial Stairway's achievement altar. As early as 20 days ago, when the Star Web officials had set up Black's virtual image on the Celestial Stairway's achievement altar, it had immediately caused the Celestial Stairway to explode. Even the experts on the Celestial Stairway's hall, which could only be entered by those above Celestial Stairway's 50 stars, had their eyes on Black. In order to obtain an exclusive achievement on the Celestial Stairway, one had to set up a virtual image on the Celestial Stairway's achievement altar. It would be admired by all the people on the Celestial Stairway. This was not something that could be done casually. In the past 100 years on Star Web, there were only close to 200 virtual images on the Celestial Stairway's achievement altar, including Black's identity. It did not mean that one had to be very strong to obtain an exclusive achievement and set up a virtual image on the Celestial Stairway's achievement altar. However, any spirit chi professional who could set up a virtual image on the Celestial Stairway's achievement altar must have something that ordinary people could not reach. The Celestial Stairway's hall, which could only be entered by those above Celestial Stairway's achievement altar, was mostly filled with experts of the older generation. These experts of the older generation usually did not pay attention to some gossip on Star Web. They would not even go to the forum or join the fan club. These experts of the older generation in the Celestial Stairways Hall were absolute bigwigs in reality. Most of the factions were at the pinnacle of king class. Therefore, even though Lin Yuan had protected Millstone Town under the millstone, these experts in the Celestial Stairways Hall had only heard of him. However, when Black's virtual image appeared on the Celestial Stairways achievement altar, Lin Yuan was considered to have walked into the line of sight of these Celestial Stairways Hall experts. Second update: ask for everyone's opinion. Do you think it's better to write in detail, every day, and warm? It's better to quickly push through the plot and push through the main storyline. Ask for everyone's opinion button has been reversing the car for the new year and is already exhausted, but I strive to make sure to do 3 updates every day. Love you, Mua. End of this chapter. Chapter 357. The experts in the Celestial Stairway Hall could not help but click their tongues in wonder at Lin Yuan's winning streak. It had to be known that it wasn't hard to find experts on the Star Web. There were plenty of experts on Star Web, but apart from Lin Yuan, there had never been anyone who could climb the Celestial Stairway without being defeated. In fact, it was not a good choice for him to participate in the Celestial Stairway duels now. Chimey was still sleeping on the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. He could not rashly summon Chimey, wake it up, and let it fight. This would undoubtedly affect the purification and improvement of Enin's bloodline. Even if there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance of affecting Chimey's bloodline purification and quality improvement, he would not do it. The only phase that could attack were Chimey, the Source Sand, Red Thorn, and the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee. Therefore, during the Celestial Stairway duels, he could only choose the combination of Red Thorn and the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee or the Source Sand to attack. Lin Yuan already had the Source Sand, but he had not used it much during the Celestial Stairway duels. During the battle with Poison Beauty, Lin Yuan had used the Source Sand to restrain her Toad Fae in the dark. No one noticed at all. He wanted to use the Gold Eye/Fantasy Eye Source Sand as his trump card. But now that he wanted to reach Celestial Stairway 12 stars, the Source Sand would not be able to be hidden. Moreover, he had already used the Source Sand in the battle against the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift Sea of Demons. During that battle, the Source Sand's web of life had saved countless Spirit Chi professionals' lives. Therefore, these adventurers already knew that Lin Yuan had contracted a Fae that could manipulate gravel. Back then, this matter had spread from the mouths of those adventurers, and it was considered quite a big news in the Radiance Federation. At the same time, in Black's forum and fan group, there were people enthusiastically discussing what kind of Fae was this sand manipulation Fae. However, no one was able to figure out the reason for the endless debate. However, according to those adventurers who had come out from the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, they had all died. This Fae that could control gravel was likely a source-type item that could play a defensive or support role. In the end, these adventurers did not see what Fae was controlling the gravel. On the contrary, elemental source-type items, which were very rare, were rare. However, there were many different opinions, and there was no definite answer. In his opinion, something that could be called a trump card must be something completely unknown to outsiders. Only in this way, when he took out his trump card, others would not be able to defend against it. Since others roughly knew about his source-type Source Sand, he felt that there was no harm in exposing it. In contrast, he felt that it was more suitable to choose Red Thorn, which had been promoted to Silver Eye/Fantasy Eye, as his trump card. Although Red Thorn's current level was only at Silver Eye/Fantasy Eye. However, Red Thorn's true strength was when it faced large-scale creatures in the wild. Only then would Red Thorn be able to unleash its full power. When Red Thorn unleashed its full power, it was simply equivalent to a seed remover. The weak were only fit to become fertilizer in the sea of flowers and were cruelly eaten by the vines. During the Celestial Stairway duel, Red Thorn was unable to unleash its full strength due to the limitations of the arena. It could only have a restrictive effect, and this control effect also overlapped with the Source Sand. If they were both at the same grade, perhaps Red Thorn's control effect would be higher than the Source Sand's. However, the source sand was now a grade higher than red thorn. In the end, the source sand was still stronger in terms of control effect. Therefore, Lin Yuan planned to hide red thorn, which had become a fantasy breed and had undergone a tremendous change, as his trump card. He would expose the source sand, which had been speculated about but never concluded. If he did not expose the source sand, Lin Yuan was really not sure if he could reach Celestial 12 stars. After the Star Web Celestial Stairway duels, Lin Yuan used the source sand to effortlessly defeat the 3 duelists he was matched with. He directly advanced from Celestial 1 stars to Celestial 4 stars. Each of Lin Yuan's duels was very fast. Tian Ningning did not even see clearly what had happened before the duels were over. She only saw that there seemed to be a small amber object falling to the ground from Lin Yuan's cufflinks. Within a short minute, a quicksand vortex appeared under the feet of the Spirit Chi professionals and the summon phase. Tian Ningning was already completely excited. At that moment, she was already thinking about how to write the next duel record. Tian Ningning had already determined that the reason black could control the gravel was because it had contracted an elemental source-type life form. Black had never revealed this elemental source-type life form in the Star Web duels before. But now, it seemed that this elemental source-type life form that controlled the gravel was undoubtedly Black's strongest power. In just a few minutes of the duel, Tian Ningning realized that the quicksand, which did not seem difficult to break free from, was undoubtedly the strongest power that Black had revealed. When the Spirit Chi professionals and Faye's legs sank in, it was as if they had reached into the cruelest place. They let out a miserable howl as though they had experienced some inhuman pain. However, this howl only echoed for a moment before Lin Yuan won the Celestial Stairway duel. This made Tian Ningning, a knowledgeable Star Web reporter, unable to clearly see the elemental life form that Lin Yuan was controlling. How exactly did they take the lives of the Spirit Chi professionals and Fays that they were matched with? However, Tian Ningning could see that it was a one-hit kill. Otherwise, Lin Yuan wouldn't have obtained victory the moment the miserable howl disappeared. He wanted to increase the number of stars on the Celestial Stairway. Therefore, he didn't hold back at all in the battle. As long as the source sand formed a quicksand vortex to control the Spirit Chi professionals and Fays, they would be able to control the Spirit Chi professionals and Fays. A chain sword made of ferromanganese would instantly emerge from the sea of sand and bind the feet of the Spirit Chi professionals and Fays. As the Spirit Chi professional and Fae sunk into the yellow sand, Lin Li's eyes widened. The manganese chain sword in the sea of sand would shrink and squeeze the feet that were entangled by the chain without any hesitation. At the same time, the heart-penetrating iron line that the source sand's exclusive skill, Sand Granule Spirit Acceptance, was equivalent to a Platinum 3/Flawless Fae. It was like an invisible devil in the sea of sand. It invisibly harvested the lives of the Spirit Chi professionals and Fays that were wrapped by the chain swords in the quicksand vortex and slowly sinking into the sea of sand. After 3 Celestial Stairway duels, Lin Yuan did not feel tired at all. It had to be said that even if Lin Yuan had reached Celestial 4 stars now, he would not be able to reach Celestial 4 stars. The Spirit Chi professionals that he was matched with did not summon any Platinum Fays either. The strongest Fae that Lin Yuan had encountered was only Gold 7/Flawless. Lin Yuan's Gold Eye/Fantasy Eye Source Sand had already reached the strength of a Platinum Fae. Therefore, Lin Yuan's current duel was equivalent to a crushing duel. After Lin Yuan won another duel, he had fought all the way to Celestial 5 stars. Just as Lin Yuan was preparing to start the next Celestial Stairway duel, the person that he was matched with made Lin Yuan raise his brows in surprise. Yesterday's third update asking for tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 358. Lin Yuan did not expect that when he was matched with an opponent for the Celestial Stairway 5 stars this time, he would be matched with a Celestial Stairway 5-star opponent. He actually knew the person he was matched with. He was now matched with Poison Beauty, whom he had met during the Celestial Stairway promotion duels. Most of the Spirit Chi professionals on the Celestial Stairway had joined a guild club. becoming a member of the club's main team or reserve team. It was time for the S tournament. The Stairway Tree powerhouses who had joined the guild club would usually spend their time on competitions and group training. However, the number of people on the stairway who did not join a guild club was definitely not small. Among so many people, Lin Yuan was actually matched with the opponent he had encountered before, Poison Beauty. It could not be said that there was no fate between them. After Lin Yuan was matched with Poison Beauty, the face behind the mask only raised his eyebrows slightly. He didn't have any extra reactions. Since Lin Yuan was wearing the silver mask that Genius had transformed into, even if Lin Yuan had any expression on his face, no one would be able to see anything. After Poison Beauty was matched with an opponent, she did not immediately check her opponent's information. Instead, it was "Your little brother, Mimi, is boundlessly savage" that was speaking to the sky. Stinky brothers in the live streaming room, ever since I stopped being stuck in the Celestial Stairway promotion competition and started climbing the Celestial Stairway, you stinky brothers haven't been sending as many gifts as before. Quick, everyone, give me a superpower pill now. Later, we'll draw a prize from those who have obtained the superpower pill. The prize is a month of silence. The viewers in Poisonous Beauty's live streaming room interacted with her through the air. Even though Poisonous Beauty couldn't see it during the stairway duel, the viewers in Poisonous Beauty's live streaming room started interacting with her. Who's the weakest? Don't say anything. I support Poison Beauty, but I'll definitely give you the super energy pill next time. Jealous me, I'll give you a big slap, crawl for me. Low profile book boy, to be honest, as long as it's a star web streamer that I follow, their quality is generally low. 10,000 forms in the heart, I came to Poison Sister's live streaming room to eat. Blood Red Tango, did you guys notice who's on the other side? It would be a massacre. His eyes glowed green. Fuck. Poison Beauty actually encountered Black. Hey Chong Duck, mommy is cheering for you. After Poison Beauty finished speaking to the live stream room with infinite savagery, she looked at her opponent. Poison Beauty immediately cried out, "Ow, ow, ow." Poison Beauty's cries were very strange. It contained many unknown stories. She was like a desperate girl who had been chased by a gangster for 30 meters and was about to jump into the river to commit suicide. But at that moment, he realized that the scoundrel had disappeared, and the river was filled with gold coins as far as his eyes could see. 10% fear, 20% anger, 30% excitement, and 40% impatience. Poison Beauty looked at Lin Yuan with glowing eyes and said, "That's right. Black, I didn't expect you to be so obsessed with me. Why are you in such a hurry to meet me, little sister Poison?" Lin Yuan felt that his face behind the mask was about to crack. At that moment, Lin Yuan did not know what Poison Beauty was saying. Why did it sound strange? What kind of expression does this Andy have? Why does it feel like she's going to eat me up? However, at that moment, an amber button-like object fell to the ground from Lin Yuan's sleeve. Without the slightest ripple, it turned into quicksand and drilled into the ground. Everyone's eyes were focused on the silver mask on Black face, so no one noticed this scene at all. An amber button-like source-type source sand was secretly starting to create sand. Poison Beauty had just finished speaking when her live streaming room was immediately flooded with comments. Old Grandpa, ah. Watching little sister Poison's live streaming, I actually saw her duel with Black again. What kind of immortal fate is this between little sister Poison and Black? Soft Diamond, upstairs, don't tell me you want to be a couple. She's a ruthless person. Shadow, fuck. Anti-Poison is going to eat people. 3-year-old Zay, Poison Beauty is too aggressive. I can't take it anymore. I want to meet Poison Beauty offline. Why didn't she say such flirtatious words to me? Traversing in crevice, upstairs, do you want to be swallowed by Anti-Poison's tainted toad? You actually dare to meet Anti-Poison. Falling into your eyes, one button to rule pity, one button to bury despair. Poison Beauty, wait to be punished by our ancestors' will. Little boy is scared, fuck. Poison Beauty, let go of our black baby. We male mothers can't take this grievance. I'm so angry. Among all the duelists on the Celestial Stairway, the number of videos in Black's Celestial Stairway video library was undoubtedly not worthy of his huge amount of attention. It could be said that Lin Yuan's Celestial Stairway duels contained a lot of water. They were all easy victories and could not be considered exciting at all. However, Black's popularity in the Celestial Stairway video library was very high. There was no lack of popularity brought by some teenage girl fans and mother fans who repeatedly paid to watch it. Among the many mother fans, the mother fans' ranking had even allowed him to advance from 0-star Celestial Stairway to 1-star Celestial Stairway. It was on the top 10 of the Celestial Stairway video library's popularity list. Although the top 10 of the Celestial Stairway video library's popularity list was also rotated. However, most of them were dominated by the Radiance 100 sequence members and the Celestial Stairway Hall experts' battle videos for many years. As for Black's identity, a battle video that relied on instant kills to win appeared on such a list. There was no doubt that it was very abrupt. This was because, according to common sense, only battle recordings of evenly matched opponents and narrow victories were worth watching and studying over and over again. It was not cheap to watch a Celestial Stairway experts battle video in the Celestial Stairway video library. Celestial Stairway experts battle videos were all watched with a fee. There was no situation of buying and repeatedly paying to watch. This also greatly proved the combat power of Black's fans. Just this alone was enough to see how popular Black's identity was on Star Web. His opponents in the duels that he had just fought were not live streamers, so they could not immediately let others pay attention to the duels. However, the Celestial Stairway video library's battle videos were immediately synchronized after the duels. This also caused the fans who usually watched Black's battle videos in the Celestial Stairway video library to discover that Black was currently frantically fighting in the Star Web duels. Moreover, he had won 4 duels in a row. Upon seeing the 4 duels that Black had just saved in the video library, the eyes of Black's fans could not help but light up. What excited the fans the most was that they could see Black's Star Web duels again. They could also see what Black had never used in the previous Star Web duels, which was the rumored Fae that could manipulate gravel. They could also read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 359. If a person had something that could attract people's attention, there was no doubt that these things were a person's strength, identity, reputation, wealth, and looks. Be it strength, identity, reputation, wealth, or looks, they could create an extremely strong attraction to people. However, the attraction of these things was inferior to one kind of attraction. The most fascinating thing that people could not help but want to explore was the sense of mystery. Black's entire body was constantly revealing a sense of mystery. A heroic youth who had previously caused a sensation on Star Web with consecutive victories had actually achieved such a battle result without even using his strongest Fae. Moreover, no one could be sure that this Fae that could manipulate sand was Black's strongest Fae. The news on Star Web spread extremely quickly, let alone when there were so many people at noon. Therefore, when Black and Poison Beauty encountered each other, the news immediately spread from her live streaming room. It immediately caused a large number of fans to pour into her live streaming room. This caused the number of viewers in her live streaming room to break through the previous upper limit and reach a new height. In fact, it was reasonable to say that even if the news on Star Web spread very quickly, it should not be at such a speed. The reason why it was so fast was because of the previous duel between Black and Poison Beauty. Some of Black's fans had entered Poison Beauty's live streaming room and become her haters. After these haters became Poison Beauty's haters, they became her haters. At the same time, he was viciously beautiful, and as he continued to viciously, he began to express his feelings. Therefore, when they had nothing to do, they would often stay in Poison Beauty's live streaming room to watch her live streaming. Poison Beauty's Fae combination might cause no team to be willing to accept her. This also caused Poison Beauty to never set foot in the field of team battles. However, Poison Beauty still worked very hard on the Star Web Dual live streaming. As a Star Web Dual live streaming, a typical live streaming from the Star Web Tower would only live stream for 4 to 5 hours a day. However, Poison Beauty could live stream for as long as 12 hours a day. In addition, she had been working hard during the live streaming like an artist. From time to time, she would start to scold the live streaming room's audience and wantonly ban them. Previously, Poison Beauty had sent hundreds of thousands of Radiance dollars in gifts, hoping that she could commentate the duel. In the end, after asking a few questions that Poison Beauty thought were retarded, Poison Beauty actually scolded Roll 1, who had spent hundreds of thousands of Radiance dollars in hopes that she would commentate. All kinds of tricks made Poison Beauty blacker and redder. In the past, Poison Beauty's live broadcast was quite entertaining, and some old fans liked to watch it. However, Poison Beauty's control in the live streaming room was definitely not as sharp as it was now. The reason why Poison Beauty would do such a thing now was because she had to be careful. It was also because he had encountered Lin Yuan in the duel and said some extremely arrogant words, so he had been targeted by Black Lin Yuan's fans. At first, Poison Beauty was a little distressed, but a few days later, she suddenly realized that Black received more attention than Red. Sometimes, there were even hints of red in the darkness. Therefore, Poison Beauty completely unleashed her nature. Like a wild horse that had broken free from its reins, she went on the path of moral integrity, never to return. Lin Yuan looked at Poison Beauty's expression and did not know what to say for a moment. Logically speaking, someone was talking to him, and it was an opponent he had met before. Lin Yuan should also go and greet them. However, Lin Yuan really did not know how to respond to Anti-Poison's words. When Poison Beauty saw that Black did not respond to her for a long time, she was not anxious or depressed at all. She now did not want Black to interact with her as much as before. This was because she had understood the true meaning of an actor. According to Poison Beauty's understanding, a good actor needed to use superb acting skills when the opponent was acting with her. They could display their acting skills to the fullest. Now, Poison Beauty felt that the real actor should be when she was singing. She should be able to act with herself. Even when acting alone, she had to be able to sing the feeling of two people competing. Such an actor could be called a good actor. An even more powerful actor had to be able to sing an opera troupe's play alone. Just like last time, Poison Beauty raised her hand and summoned her fays. Lin Yuan found that the fae that Poison Beauty summoned was still the same as when he had fought against her. There was no improvement. They were still the Gold 9/Elite Illusory Mist Jackdaw and the Gold 7/Flawless Poison Weaving Dark Spider. There were also the Silver X/Elite Carrion Umbrella Mushroom and the Silver X/Elite Tainted Toad. After summoning her fays, she faintly spread out the array. Poison Beauty said seamlessly, "Black, I know you want to poison me. Black, I know you want to poison me. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been matched with me when I was matched up. Let us be matched together. Black, tell me quickly, are you also secretly watching my live streaming room?" The reason why Poison Beauty said this was to bring more popularity to herself and attract some anti-fans. With attention, she could earn more money. During this time, Poison Beauty had been working so hard to improve the Poison Weaving Dark Spider's quality. She wanted to improve the Gold 7/Flawless Poison Weaving Dark Spider to Gold 7/Epic through her own efforts. Now, Poison Beauty's money was almost all saved up. The viewers in Poison Beauty's live streaming room followed Poison Beauty's words. There was an immediate uproar. When Lin Yuan heard her words, the corners of his mouth could not help but twitch, and he said helplessly, "What's the opposite of local necrosis? What's the opposite of local necrosis?" Lin Yuan's words caused Poison Beauty to be unable to react for a while. The audience in Poison Beauty's live streaming room only heard a pleasant young voice with a cold taste ringing in their ears. The magnetism seemed to be able to make people reminisce for a long time. Although Black's fans were denouncing her in her live streaming room, the audience in Poison Beauty's live streaming room, especially Black's mother fans, became excited. This was because Black had never said a word in all the videos in the Star Web video library. Moreover, it was said that when Black and Poison Beauty were fighting, he had also communicated verbally with her. However, the video of that battle was not recorded in the Celestial Stairway video library. Therefore, Black's words were recorded in the Celestial Stairway video library after the battle. Therefore, Black's words were recorded in the Celestial Stairway video library after the battle. It should be the only audio material that Black could find on Star Web. Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 360. Poison Beauty felt that her entire being wasn't good. In just a few minutes, she had racked her brains to come up with a script. She had completely thought of what she was going to do. How she was going to say it later, how she was going to add scenes for herself, and how she was going to act smoothly. Then, how she was going to make her self-directed script reach the climax. However, Poison Beauty had never expected that Black would actually speak now. This was completely different from what Poison Beauty had in mind. Wasn't Black supposed to be aloof and cold? Was he not good with words? Why did he speak just like that? Poison Beauty was calculating the script in her mind. When she heard Black's question, she could not react for a long time. Poison Beauty could not help but feel a little nervous. What's the opposite of partial necrosis? At that moment, Poison Beauty heard the young man's cold voice. I'm so alive. But when this cold young man's voice was heard, Poison Beauty's temper immediately rushed up. Am I being ridiculed? Poison Beauty only felt that the back of her teeth were tight, and she needed to bite it hard to relieve it. Poison Beauty had been a Star Web streamer for a long time and could completely imagine the audience's reaction in her live streaming room. Although she felt that her veteran actress had been insulted, she also knew that this situation was good for her live streaming room. However, Poison Beauty knew in her heart that such a situation was beneficial to her live streaming room. The popularity brought by the previous duel with Black had basically disappeared in the past 2 months. But now that she had encountered Black again, it would undoubtedly bring another wave of popularity to her live streaming room. However, now that he had encountered Black again, it would undoubtedly bring another wave of popularity to his live broadcast room. It might even be a foreshadowing of the previous popularity. This time, Black would bring even more popularity to her. Poison Beauty thought that if she did not have the quality of an actress to support her, she would probably be so happy that her entire body would be trembling. This was because she knew that the situation with Black this time was completely different from the previous one. The last time she was matched with Black, it was during the Celestial Stairway promotion duel and would not be recorded in the Celestial Stairway video library. But now, this duel would undoubtedly be recorded in Black's Star Web video library. With Black's popularity, if this video was pushed to the top 10 of the Star Web video library by Black's male mother fans, then, wouldn't it be equivalent to me, Poison Beauty, also entering the top 10 of the Star Web video library? Regardless of whether I won or lost, I had this chance because I was matched with Black. Lin Yuan stood there and commanded the gold eye/fantasy eye source sand to create sand without leaving a trace. Suddenly, he heard Poison Beauty say, Black. Last time, it was because I couldn't dodge your fatal blow. This time, I won't be so careless. Why don't we fight in 5 minutes? If you're an expert, wait for me to get ready before we fight. When Lin Yuan heard Poison Beauty's words, he only felt that this auntie's brain wasn't working, right? Star duels were not a child. Star Web duels were not a game for children. Losing and winning seemed easy. Just like last time, Poison Beauty had said so many words to stall for time. It was Fong Beauty's Black Beauty had. The reason Lin Yuan had not made a move during the previous duel was because he had waited for Poison Beauty to make a move before counterattacking. It was also because he had needed the source sand to create a large amount of gravel underground to control Poison Beauty at the critical moment. Black with to Black's beauty. However, it was the result of Chimey and the source sand working together. If the source sand had not controlled the tainted toad, which had swallowed Poison Beauty, under the ground. If the tainted toad had jumped away when Chimey attacked, it would not have been able to kill it. Even if Chimey could kill the tainted toad, it might not have been able to kill Poison Beauty, who had been swallowed by the tainted toad as a meat shield. Now, Chimey was asleep. Lin Yuan could not summon Chimey and could only use the source sand. If he did not let the source sand create sand on a large scale, Lin Yuan would not expose Red Thorn. It was really not easy to win against a long-range poison support-type spirit chi professional like Poison Beauty, who took the unconventional path. If it had been a normal duel, Lin Yuan might have attacked the moment his opponent summoned a Fey. Thus, he could end the battle quickly. However, Lin Yuan just stood there and let Poison Beauty perform. Lin Yuan's spiritual power was transmitted to the source sand underground through his feet. When the source sand received Lin Yuan's spiritual power, its sand creation speed was much faster than usual. Poison Beauty quickly let her Fey set up a formation. Although she said it would take 5 minutes, she did not need that much time. In just 2 minutes, she had perfectly unfolded her formation. The reason why she said 5 minutes was that Poison Beauty hoped that more people would enter her live streaming room. This way, her chances of receiving gifts would be higher and she would be able to get more meals. Once the 5 minutes were up, Poison Beauty jumped onto the back of the Silver X/Elite Tainted Toad. Then, she let the Gold 7/Flawless Poison Weaving Dark Spider lay layer after layer of poisonous spider webs within 20 meters of her. Then, she let the Poison Weaving Dark Spider stay on the poisonous spider webs around her, ready to protect her at any time. This time, Poison Beauty did not let the illusory mist jackdaw spew out a large amount of poisonous fog. Due to her previous combat experience, she knew that the opponent was on the fantasy breed avian Fey. That layer of glazed flame could evaporate the poisonous fog that the illusory mist jackdaw spat out. Therefore, Poison Beauty did not intend to waste the spiritual power to let the illusory mist jackdaw release the fog. Instead, she planned to use the spiritual power on the Gold 7/Flawless Poison Weaving Dark Spider and the Silver X/Elite Carrion Mushroom. She let the carrion mushroom spread the fungi that could make wounds rot quickly all over the place. Compared to the water mist poison, these fungal poisons were undoubtedly much stronger in terms of resistance to high temperatures. Although Poison Beauty knew that her battle with Black could bring popularity, she was not convinced that she had lost to Black in the previous battle. Previously, she could not figure out why the tainted toad would send her a feedback that it was bound by the ground under its feet and could not jump at a critical juncture. Since she could not understand, she blamed it all on the tainted toad's feet being stuck in the soil when it used the land pollution ability. When the tainted toad used the land pollution ability again, the soil would indeed become as sticky as mud when it was covered with poison. Yesterday's third update asking for tickets. Those who used the free coins to read this book, if you like it, make up for a full subscription. We thank you for your continued support. End of this chapter. Chapter 361. This time, Poison Beauty looked at the perfect formation she had created and had the idea of defeating Black. If she could defeat Black, Poison Beauty believed that her popularity would not be as simple as being matched with Black. As the number of people in Poison Beauty's live stream increased, a thick layer of bullet comments covered the screen, basically blocking the battle scene. This caused the audience who only wanted to watch the duel to block the bullet screen. He waited patiently for the battle between the silver-masked youth. As for the viewers who were making fun of the bullet screen comments, they were thinking that after this battle ended, they would be able to watch a special video in the Star Web video library. Therefore, he was not in a hurry. After all, he was a fan of Black's mother. This was especially true for the male moms among the mom's fans. Black's battle videos had to be watched at least 100 times. 5 minutes might seem like a short time, but it passed in the blink of an eye. However, during these 5 minutes, as he kept injecting spiritual power into the gold eye/fantasy eye source sand, the source sand's spiritual power had increased tremendously. As a result, the bottom of the stairway battle arena was filled with the source sand particles. At the moment when Poison Beauty launched her attack, the Silver X/Elite Carrion Umbrella Mushroom sprayed a large amount of fungi that could rot flesh into the air. The Gold 7/Flawless Poison Weaving Dark Spider had secretly used the Mist Spider Web earlier. The invisible, misty spider web melted into the air. Hence, at this moment, when the Gold 7/Flawless Poison Weaving Dark Spider used the web attachment skill, the atomized spider webs in the air combined with a large number of fungi that could make flesh rot, producing layers of venomous spider webs that pushed toward Lin Yuan. Poison Beauty's plan was very simple, which was to ensure her own safety. The poisonous spider web constantly reduced Lin Yuan's living space. In the end, they would use poison to slowly erode all the lives in the duel arena, using a battle of attrition to win the match. Under Poison Beauty's berserk attack, the ground trembled. Poison Beauty, including the viewers in her live streaming room, saw that the silver-masked youth didn't panic at all. The young man casually waved his hand. At this moment, apart from the ground beneath the silver-masked youth's feet, the entire celestial stairway duel arena had turned into a boiling sea of sand. As the sea of sand boiled, it frantically devoured anything that touched it. It wanted to sink everything that existed on the sea of sand into the sea of sand. Then, it was crushed by the heavy pressure of the sea of sand. At that moment, Poison Beauty, who was on the back of the tainted toad, could completely feel the powerlessness of the tainted toad under her feet in the sea of sand. Poison Beauty herself couldn't stop the filthy toad from sinking into the sea of sand, because the tainted toad's feet had just sunk into the boiling sea of sand. When Poison Beauty ordered the tainted toad to jump onto the web weaved by the Gold 7/Flawless Poison Weaving Dark Spider, she could no longer do it. Poison Beauty felt the familiar sense of restraint from the tainted toad. Poison Beauty couldn't help but shout. Yeah, this is the feeling. Although the Poison Weaving Dark Spider was on the web, it didn't come into contact with the boiling sand below. But under the pull of the yellow sand raised by the sea of sand soon, these stacked cobwebs would be pulled into the deepest part of the sea of sand after being stuck to a large amount of gravel. In just a moment, the poison-weaving dark spider would have nowhere to hide. Even a battle-hardened duelist like Poison Beauty couldn't deal with such a sudden and violent attack. Poison Beauty felt like she was a small, broken boat swaying in a natural disaster. She could sink and die at any moment. Under such a sea of sand, wanting to find a foothold was an extravagant hope. Therefore, Poison Beauty could only let the Gold 9/Elite Illusory Mist Jackdaw pull her arm and bring her into the air. Only then did she barely escape the disaster. But before Poison Beauty could heave a sigh of relief, she saw over a dozen meandering blue-black chains vaguely appear in the sea of sand. At the front of the faintly discernible blue-black chains in the sea of sand was a huge blue-black broadsword with an extremely strong metallic luster. The moment the chain swords drilled out of the sea of sand, they flew nearly 10 meters into the air. In Poison Beauty's horrified gaze, these chain swords seemed to be intricate and precise. In an instant, they formed a blue-black steel cage. It firmly locked Poison Beauty and the Gold 9/Elite Illusory Mist Jackdaw in the cage. At first, a few violent collisions could still be heard in the steel cage. These were the efforts of Poison Beauty and the Gold 9/Elite Illusory Mist Jackdaw in order to break free of this steel cage. However, it was all in vain. Lin Yuan stood in the distance, stepping on the yellow sand. The yellow sand formed a huge palm under Lin Yuan's feet. The fingers of the palm were slightly bent as if protecting Lin Yuan, who was standing in the center of the huge palm and commanding the battle. Such a scene was simply an artistic duel in the eyes of the audience in Poison Beauty's live streaming room. In the world of sand, a silver-masked youth was like the king of sand, dominating everything in the world of sand. Such a scene was simply too shocking. As the blue-black chains danced, they pulled down the steel cage in midair. When the steel cage was pulled into the boiling quicksand, the quicksand boiled even more intensely. The quicksand boiled even more violently, forming a huge whirlpool of quicksand beneath the bluish-black steel cage. This blue-black steel cage seemed to be sealed with some evil and was buried under the sea of sand. At that moment, a mournful and painful crow's cry faintly came from underground. At that moment, the audience in Poison Beauty's live streaming room discovered that the silver-masked youth had actually won this star web duel. The boiling quicksand in the entire duel arena had already stopped boiling when the silver-masked youth won. Only the silver-masked youth stood ramrod straight, looking incomparably otherworldly against the sea of sand. Only the silver-masked youth stood ramrod straight, looking incomparably otherworldly against the backdrop of the sea of sand. At that moment, many of Poison Beauty's mother fans in Black's live streaming room turned into girlfriend fans. However, the people watching this duel in Poison Beauty's live streaming room, whether they were Black's fans or not, were all very excited. In their eyes, this duel proved that the silver-masked youth, Black, had used gravel to weave a miracle in the controlled Class 3 abyss-dimensional rift. They were all cheering for Black. The bullet comments in Poison Beauty's live streaming room were once again flooded with Black. Awesome. Bullet comments flooded the screen. This neat and tidy Black. Awesome. Awesome. It was like a declaration. It was an announcement that a silver-masked youth was creating miracles again and again in overcoming obstacles. Or rather, this silver-masked youth, Black, was a miracle in itself. Today's first update, end of this chapter. Chapter 362. It had to be said that although Black had not fought hard, he had won this duel. However, the content of this duel was extremely high because Black had subverted everyone's previous understanding of Black. Throughout this duel, Black had been using a combat system that he had never used before. It seemed that in this duel, Black had not displayed the complete combat power of this combat system. He had already ended the duel. At that moment, the audience in Poison Beauty's live streaming room could not help but complain about her. Why was she so weak and let Black end the duel so quickly? She had not seen enough, okay. However, the audience in Poison Beauty's live streaming room only complained. Although Poison Beauty had a lot of haters, none of her haters would criticize her strength. After all, her strength was obvious to all. Poison Beauty's strength did not lie in her gold 9/elite illusory mist jackdaw and gold 7/flawless poison weaving dark spider, which were two outstanding poison-type fays. Instead, it was because Poison Beauty contracted the Silver X/elite carrion umbrella mushroom and the Silver X/elite tainted toad. These four poison-type fays had coordinated their abilities and exclusive skills with each other. Otherwise, Poison Beauty would not have been so terrifying during the Celestial Stairway promotion duels. She was known as one of the most reliable gatekeepers during the Celestial Stairway promotion duels. At that moment, the audience in Poison Beauty's live streaming room was filled with countless curiosity. What exactly was that chain sword that came out of the sea of sand? How did Poison Beauty and the cold mist jackdaw die in the depths of the sea of sand? Perhaps only Poison Beauty was clear about this. Perhaps it had happened so quickly that Poison Beauty had already lost her life before she could react. In any case, Black had once again broken everyone's previous impression of Black with a brand new stance. At the same time, Black's identity was shrouded in a thick layer of mystery, making people unable to help but explore. In the past, many people felt that Black's strength was due to his age and talent. Now, when mentioning Black's strength, they had to lament his age and talent. They had to lament Black's true strength. Black's stance was like a natural disaster that had instantly killed Poison Beauty, an experienced combat class spirit chi professional. From this point, it could be seen that Black's combat ability had completely exceeded the standard of gold. Previously, when Black was going to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence competition, even his fans felt that he was only participating this year. None of them felt that with the strength Black had displayed, he was qualified to pass the competition and become a Radiance 100 sequence member this year. But now, judging from the strength that Black had displayed, Black's strength was far superior to Black's. It did not seem impossible for Black to become a Radiance 100 sequence member this year. After all, the strength that Black had displayed had already reached the platinum level. In that case, did Black have any other trump cards that he had yet to reveal? Perhaps only the mysterious Black herself would know about this. After Lin Yuan completed this Celestial Stairway duel with Poison Beauty, the Celestial Stairway duel with Poison Beauty was completed. He was no longer preparing for another Celestial Stairway duel. He checked Black's personal information on Star Web. Name, Black. Gender, male. Height, 179 cm. Weight, 62 star. Tower floor, Celestial Stairway. 6 star. Spirit Chi. Occupation, healing type. Professional. Profession level, advanced. Exclusive achievement, straight to the Celestial Stairway, ascended the Celestial Stairway from the Star Tower without losing a single match. Contracted Fae, Morbius, Bronze 10/Legend, 1000 Questions Beast, Bronze 10/Legend, Twilight Starbird, Silver 1/Fantasy Eye, Red Thorn, Silver 1/Fantasy Eye, Acid Corrosion Queen Bee, Gold 1/Legend, Source Sand, Gold 1/Fantasy Eye, Dual Record Sad Face. Star Tower, 100 duels, 100 wins, 0 losses. 100 highest floor, Celestial Stairway Promotion Duel, 2 duels, 2 wins, 0 losses. Celestial Stairway, 6 duels, 6 wins, 0 losses. 6 highest star count. Lin Yuan looked at his Celestial Stairway, which had changed from Celestial 1 star to Celestial 6 stars. It was not difficult for Lin Yuan to experience 5 consecutive duels. The only one that could be considered difficult was the duel with Poison Beauty just now. If Poison Beauty had not given him so much time to prepare, Lin Yuan would have wanted to defeat her. In a situation where the Source Sand had not spread out its array, he would have needed to spend a lot of effort. However, Poison Beauty's stalling for time also happened to give Lin Yuan time to prepare. Looking at his personal information, Lin Yuan was surprised to find that it was almost the new year. He had grown a centimeter taller in the last few days of the new year. His height had increased from 178 to 179. Furthermore, he had also gained a kilo of weight. This discovery made Lin Yuan pleasantly surprised. Lin Yuan was a man who wanted to grow to 1.8 meters tall. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw Tian Ningning's message. Tian Ningning, Black God, you're amazing. Your elemental source-type life form is really too strong. When Lin Yuan saw Tian Ningning's message, he couldn't help but blink. I don't think I can afford to be called Black God. Black, just call me Black. For some reason, when Tian Ningning saw Black's message, her heart skipped a beat. He only felt a sense of youthfulness. It was as if a teenager was shy after receiving praise. Tian Ningning recalled the elemental source-type life form that Lin Yuan had just revealed and asked. Tian Ningning, Black God, can you tell me the grade of that elemental source-type life form that can control gravel? When Lin Yuan saw Tian Ningning's message, he couldn't bear to look at her address. However, there was no hesitation when he replied. Black, Gold Eye/Fantasy Eye, he felt that there was no need to hide his source-type Source Sand's grade. He knew that even if he did not tell Tian Ningning, Star Web scholars would analyze it. Rather than letting the Star Web scholars analyze it and let others know about it, it was better to let Tian Ningning post it openly. When Tian Ningning saw Lin Yuan's message, she was elated. At the same time, she was secretly shocked by Lin Yuan's strength. After chatting for a while, Tian Ningning still asked Lin Yuan how to write the battle records of the 5-star web duels. After giving a brief reply, he logged off Star Web. Lin Yuan looked at the mirror in the room and wanted to see if he had really grown taller by 1 centimeter. After looking for a while, Lin Yuan let out a sigh. It was impossible to tell that he had grown a centimeter taller. Furthermore, Lin Yuan had also gained 500 grams of weight, but he didn't know where he had gained weight. Someone knocked on Lin Yuan's door. Lin Yuan opened the door and saw Lu Jie standing there in high spirits. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan said with a smile. Big brother Lu, has the cocoon of evolution completed its parasitism? Upon hearing that, a different look flashed in Lu Jie's eyes. Yes, the source-type cocoon of evolution has parasitized the insect queen. It won't be long before the cocoon of evolution reproduces in the insect queen's body and absorbs its energy. It will soon be able to promote to normal. At that time, my insect queen's normal inscribed bayonet beetles can also be enhanced. When Lin Yuan saw the look in Lu Jie's eyes, he knew that the heart of insect swarm's fighting spirit and ambition had returned. Beast Evolution Quotient Latest Chapter 363 Lin Yuan had grown taller. Website. Chapter 363. If one were to ask who understood a person the most, then it would undoubtedly be that person himself. The same principle applied to Lu Jie. In this world, only Lu Jie understood himself the best. After obtaining the source-type cocoon of evolution from Lin Yuan's eyes lit up. After Lu Jie returned to his room to prepare, he let the source-type item cocoon of evolution parasitize the insect queen. When Lu Jie heard about it, he knew how helpful this source-type cocoon of evolution would be to him. The cocoon of evolution had parasitized the insect queen. As the insect queen's contractor, Lu Jie could naturally feel the improvement to the insect queen after the source-type item cocoon of evolution leveled up. This was a complete qualitative change. Previously, Lu Jie felt that he could not continue to develop as a combat class spirit chi professional. This was because Lu Jie had discovered that the core of his battle strategy, the bayonet beetles, which formed the foundation of his insect swarm, were weak. But now, Lu Jie only needed to slowly let the insect queen provide energy to the source-type cocoon of evolution. It allowed the source-type cocoon of evolution to increase its grade and quality. After the source-type cocoon of evolution grew, every unit in the swarm would undergo a qualitative change. On the basis of qualitative change, quantitative change was carried out. Then, the increase in strength would show a trend of exponential growth. Lu Jie was now very confident about his future. Sometimes, when one regained their confidence and took a step forward on the previous path, it was equivalent to being firm towards the same goal twice. While Lin Yuan was happy for Lu Jie, he pondered for a moment and said, "That's right. Brother Lu, I'll get you some protein cocoon chrysalises in the next few days." Letting the insect queen consume a large amount of protein cocoon chrysalises will be of great help in improving the quality and level of the cocoon of evolution. When Lin Yuan had used true data to check the source-type cocoon of evolution, he had found out. The cocoon of evolution was a parasitic source-type life form like the acid corrosion queen bee. But in terms of growth, it was extremely similar to red thorn. The source-type cocoon of evolution could only absorb the energy of the host to upgrade its level and quality. Moreover, the cocoon of evolution was a mycelium-type source-type life form. In addition to energy, the mycelium's reproduction and division also required a lot of insect protein. The protein cocoon chrysalis was a relatively common spiritual ingredient. Due to its rich insect synthetic protein, it had always been the favorite of insect species phase. Most insect species phase would grow carapaces. Therefore, some spirit chi professionals would feed insect species phase some protein cocoon chrysalises during the critical period of their evolution to assist in their evolution. It could be said that this protein cocoon chrysalis, which was rich in synthetic insect proteins, had many benefits for the insect queen's evolution. Although the protein cocoon chrysalis was a relatively common spiritual material. However, his insect queen was already a platinum/fantasy breed source-type life form. A platinum/fantasy breed source-type life form's energy level had even reached the diamond level. Therefore, the protein silkworm chrysalises consumed by Lu Jie's insect queen had to be at least gold grade in order to be effective on the insect queen and the cocoon of evolution. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the protein cocoon chrysalis that were most suitable for the insect queen to consume should be based on the insect queen's energy level, which was diamond. If Lu Jie's contracted insect queen could consume the diamond rank protein silkworm chrysalises, in that case, it would be most beneficial to the insect queen and the cocoon of evolution. The benefits of eating the platinum protein cocoon chrysalis were not small. However, compared to the diamond protein silkworm chrysalis, it was still far inferior. Moreover, if the diamond protein silkworm chrysalis was eaten over time, it could also subtly improve the insect queen's quality as a fantasy breed source-type life form. This situation was similar to when the spirit-drawing ichthyosaur, Blackie, had eaten the butterfly shell flower to stimulate the dragon species bloodline in its body. Just eating it once or twice would not have any effect. If it could be eaten over time, the improvement would be very obvious after a period of time. If not for the source-type cocoon of evolution, Lin Yuan would not have been able to enhance other phase in the same way. When Lin Yuan had used the spirit chi crystals to enhance phase, the source-type cocoon of evolution's quality and grade would increase. However, it did not matter. If he could feed the insect queen the diamond protein silkworm chrysalis, it would increase the cocoon of evolution's grade and grade. Whether it was the insect queen's grade or the cocoon of evolution's grade and quality, it would be a good way to kill two birds with one stone. Although the diamond protein silkworm chrysalis were not priceless, they were still very expensive. This was also why the stronger the spirit chi professionals were, the scarcer the resources would be. Lin Yuan, I've been feeding the insect queen gold protein cocoon chrysalises. At this rate, the cocoon of evolution will successfully grow from a mycelium life form to a normal source-type life form in 2 months. As soon as Lu Jia finished speaking, Lin Yuan waved his hand and said, "That's right. Brother Lu, I'll think of a way to get some high-level protein cocoon chrysalises in the next few days." Before Lu Jia could speak, Lin Yuan continued to speak. With the discovery of this source-type cocoon of evolution, I can see more possibilities for the insect queen. Big Brother Lu, although you can't contract other phase, there might not be only one source-type item like the cocoon of evolution. A source-type item with the same function as the cocoon of evolution might be discovered in the process of collecting a large number of source-type items. Lu Jia originally wanted to refuse Lin Yuan's help in finding the protein cocoon chrysalises. On one hand, Lu Jia could earn enough money to buy the protein cocoon chrysalis if he worked hard. On the other hand, it was also because she was used to being independent in the past, so she subconsciously rejected it. However, now that Lin Yuan had finished speaking, Lu Jia could no longer think of rejecting it. Lu Jia did not think of rejecting it again. Although Lu Jia had not said any words of gratitude recently, there had always been indescribable gratitude in his heart. 3 redemptions had ignited light in his life, which was a supreme kindness. However, not only were there 3 redemptions, but the youth in front of him had also given him the right to look forward to it. Lu Jia felt that he really had nothing to repay. The only thing he could do was to become stronger and use his life to protect it. Lu Jia looked at Lin Yuan and nodded firmly. "Okay, I've returned to the Radiance 100 sequence now. I can go to the Guild Alliance to apply for the establishment of a guild club. If you go and do it, there's no need to go through an audit. It can be done on the same day. I'll go and do it in a while." Lu Jia had actually come to Lin Yuan for this matter. Yesterday's 3rd update, end of this chapter. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.